Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes so sweet and sexy. Have fun, enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. Not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions of lemonade. Coolness will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Sack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes sweet and sassy. Not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday. No matter how bad you thought it was going to get with the Michael Proctor phone extraction, no matter how evil or racist or misogynistic, anti-Semitic you thought a person could be, multiply that by 100. And then maybe, just maybe, you will be 50% of the way to the kind of hatred, evil, racist, bigotry that lives in this man's heart. I don't know where he is right now, but if you're watching Mr. Proctor, you deserve everything you get. Everything that's coming to you. And after reading this motion that you must have known was going to be unsealed, because the Commonwealth and Rosemary Scapicchio, attorney for Myles King, agreed that this 31-page motion to dismiss in the Myles King case should be unimpounded and unsealed, because you sent your lawyer in there, even though he was sitting in the dark in the Zoom conference that we watched. Was it only yesterday? Very quickly, Judge Doolin, no fooling Doolin, he's doing the right thing, unimpounded this motion, and after proper redactions by the Commonwealth and or the clerk, I've got it. And no matter how bad you thought it was, I can almost guarantee you it's a whole hell of a lot worse. If you take blood pressure medication, please go get it. If you need a heart pill, please have it nearby. This is not for the children. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not for the empaths. This is not for people who are easily offended by language, which I'm not going to use, by the way. In fact, I'm not even going to put parts of it up on the screen, because when Karen Reed released just a little teeny weeny taste of Michael Proctor in her most recent complaint against the Massachusetts State Police and the Canton PD, by putting the documents on the screen, even though I didn't say any of the words, my stream was immediately stricken by YouTube as unfriendly to advertisers because of the content that Michael Proctor put into those messages and the hatred that man, the virulent hatred and bigotry that has been going on in this man's phone so freely. You know, we teach our kids, don't ever put anything in writing that you don't want someone to see, because the internet is forever. It's not just in there. There's other people responding to him with the same sort of views. And to think that in this day and age, people still can type these things and hit send on them is wild to me. I mean, I guess I'm really, naive. I thought I had seen it all. I mean, I've seen it all. I have seen CA at the highest levels of the Catholic Church, and the way they shuffled those priests around, and the way they hit them, and the way they would just move them from parish to parish so that they could go on and harm more children without ever warning anyone, watch out for Father so-and-so. Don't let him around the children. I had seen this at the highest level, and corruption and cover up at the highest level. And that's why when I came into covering this case, I said people were no way, it can't happen. There's no way such a conspiracy could happen in a case like this where, 10 or 11 people would have to keep a secret. I said, have you heard about the Catholic Church scandal? Do you know how long that went on for? Decades. I mean, as far back as hundreds of years, if you get into Ireland and other places. So I am going to blanket warn you immediately. Get your meds. This is not for the faint of heart. And mostly everything that's in here is racial, because Myles King is Black. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, my friends. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But in order to give it its full flavor, the murder of Marquise Simmons occurred approximately 1 year before the murder of John O'Keefe. And Michael Proctor he was the lead investigator into the investigation of the murder of Marquise Simmons, for which Myles King had been held in Norfolk County Pokey for something like 4 years, because Proctor and Lally were jerking around with the evidence and wouldn't turn over things like search warrants that they had from day one. So eventually, Myles King's attorney, Rosemary Scapicchio, was able to make a bail application, and he got out on bail. And then just recently, like maybe a month ago, he was arrested by the feds on drug charges. So he's back locked up again. So don't worry. There's not a potential murderer wandering around the streets in Norfolk County. But there are people like Michael Proctor and others who did have badges, who may still have badges, and who are sworn to protect and serve your county. How far up the chain does it go? How many levels knew about this and did nothing? If you're not outraged yet, you're going to be. You're going to be. And for all of those Michael Proctor sympathizers out there who say, well, those text messages are terrible, but what does it have to do with framing Karen Read? Buckle up, buttercups. Doesn't take rocket science and genius or any kind of brain surgeon to connect the dots on who this man is. And there's a reason why the public defender's office wants a list of every single case that Michael Proctor touched, and every single case that Sean Good touched, and every single case that anyone else involved in these text messages with Michael Proctor, who's in law enforcement, touched. And you can bet that the jailhouse doors are going to be swinging open, and a whole hell of a lot of people are going to be getting out because of Michael Proctor. So if you're one of those people who really thinks that John O'Keefe was hit by a car, the person that you should direct your anger at is Michael Proctor. Okay? But in order to give this motion its due, I want to go back. Come with me back to April 29th of 2024. And do you remember when you first heard these words? The YouTubers that were covering Karen Read trial number 1, and all of our jaws were hanging open the entire time. Remember the first time you heard these words and you thought that it was maybe the worst thing that you had ever heard. I bring to you defense opening in Karen Read trial number 1 by King David Yannetti. Well, it'd be good if I press play. Hold on one second.
Karen.
Wait, sorry, I got to get the captions on for those of you who need them. They're on. Let me move it up a little tiny bit. Man, it's hard to believe. April 2024.
Karen Reed was framed. Her car never struck John O'Keefe. She did not cause his death. And that means that somebody else did. You will learn that it was no accident that John O'Keefe was found dead on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road in Canton on January 29th of 2022. You will learn that at that address lived a well-known and well-connected law enforcement family in Canton, the Alberts. Because the Alberts were involved, and because they had close connections to the investigators in this case, Karen Reed was framed for a murder she did not commit. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. As I previously told you, my name is David Yannetti. I'm an attorney with an office in Boston. Together with attorneys Alan Jackson and Elizabeth Little, it is truly my privilege and my honor to represent Karen Reed during this trial. From a very early juncture in this case, you will question the Commonwealth's theory of the case. You will question the quality of the Commonwealth's evidence. You will question the veracity of the Commonwealth's witnesses. And you will question their shoddy and biased investigation, a faulty investigation that led to Karen Reed sitting here today. You will learn, in short, that the police did no real investigation of this case, and you will question why. You'll question why the investigators had such tunnel vision.
Hindsight's 2020. We sure do know now. That is Greg Connor sitting behind him. I'm going to boost this a little bit because I just realized I'm a lot louder than this.
You will question why.
Oh. Okay, this is me.
They focused solely on Karen Reed, someone with no ties to the Canton Police Department, as opposed to the well-known and well-connected Albert family of Canton, a family that was never treated as suspects by the investigators in this case. Boston police officer John O'Keefe was found mortally injured on Brian Albert's front lawn. His body was in full view and almost right below Brian Albert's bedroom window on his front lawn. He was found wearing only one sneaker. You'll learn that Brian Albert was a Boston police officer as well, and that he was a trained first responder. Brian Albert was notified that another police officer was injured and unresponsive on his front lawn, and Brian Albert did nothing. His sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, and other civilians were on his property that morning after John O'Keefe's body was found. Police, EMTs, firefighters, police cruisers, and an ambulance, fire truck, lights flashing, and first responder Brian Albert never came out of his house. Equally important for you will be the fact that the lead homicide investigators never went inside the Albert home that morning. You will learn that Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert, is a Canton police officer. It was obvious very early on that the Canton police should not be investigating the death of a man found on the property of the brother of a Canton police officer. So it was decided just about from the start that the Massachusetts State Police should take complete control of this investigation because the Canton police were conflicted out. Now, that sounded good at the time, but you'll learn that two major problems arose. First, despite the fact that they obviously had a conflict of interest, The evidence will show that the Canton police still had their hands in this investigation. You will find it astounding, but Canton police officer Kevin Albert, the reason for the conflict of interest in the first place, was continually updated about the status of this investigation while it was going on. Second, and equally troubling, is that the lead state police detective who was assigned to this case was a man named Michael Proctor.
He's going to start talking about Michael Proctor's texts. And I remember my jaw hitting the floor when he started talking about it. And today I am going to show you how much worse it was. If you thought this was bad, hang on.
Michael Proctor, you will learn, is one of the many people in Canton with deep ties to the Albert family. Michael Proctor's own mother refers to the Alberts as the Proctor's second family. His own sister's wedding, Michael Proctor was in the wedding party with Colin Albert, and he sat at the head table of that wedding with members of the Albert family. That's the man who was chosen to lead the investigation into the suspicious death on the property of Brian Albert. That's the man who gave updates to Canton police officer Kevin Albert while the state police were supposed to be investigating what had occurred at his brother Brian Albert's house. You'll learn that right from the jump, Michael Proctor predetermined the outcome of this case. Never stepped foot inside the Albert home on January 29th, 2022. Never checked out whether there were any signs of struggle inside that home. He never called for crime scene technicians and other specialists to look for blood or other trace evidence within the home. He never asked Brian Albert for permission to go in the home and take a look around. Michael Proctor never applied for a search warrant to go in that home. Instead, he focused immediately and exclusively on Karen Reed, the outsider. You will learn that no one in the Proctor family has ever called the Reed family their second family. No one in the Proctor family had been in a wedding party with anyone from the Reed family. Karen Reed was a convenient outsider. She was most definitely not from Canton. Nope. How did Michael Proctor feel about her? How did he treat somebody he was investigating at a point in time when he should have been keeping an open mind and focusing on obtaining all possible evidence so that he didn't miss anything? Well, you will learn that on the very day that John O'Keefe was found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, Michael Proctor was texting with his high school buddies about this supposedly secret investigation using his personal cell phone. He was revealing information about this investigation to his friends, assuming that nobody would ever find out what he was doing and what he was saying. And he was revealing his true thoughts about Karen Reed to his friends, not what he put in his sanitized police reports, his true feelings to his friends whom he trusted, and in text messages that he never thought would come into the hands of the defense in this case. Lead investigator Trooper Michael Proctor, right from the start, called Karen Reed names you would reserve only for your worst enemies. He told his friends that he hoped that she would kill herself.
And that was the moment my jaw hit the floor. And we know it only got worse. This goes on for another 39 minutes. You know it. You've heard it. Let's see if he talks anymore about the text messages, and then we're going to get to the motion.
He told his friends that he had seized her cell phone. And you will learn that he knew he shouldn't have been accessing any content on her cell phone because he knew there would likely be He knew that he was supposed to wait for a search warrant or other permission from a judge in order to go through that phone. But you'll learn that he went through the phone anyway, without permission. And you'll know that he did because he told his high school buddies that he was searching her phone for nude photos of Karen Reed.
That was the second time my jaw hit the floor. Do you remember April 29th of 2024, where you were when you were watching this? Maybe with me, maybe with someone else, maybe by yourself. Maybe you've never seen this before. But the way that David Yannetti and Alan Jackson and Liza Little and Karen's team found out about these Proctor text messages was because the Attorney General's office was investigating the investigation into the murder of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. And they got Michael Proctor's text messages and they released some of them to the defense team and to the Commonwealth because Josh Levy, who was the acting U.S. attorney at the time, said to both of them on a conference call, I cannot allow this case in good conscience to go to trial. Here's 3,074 pages of what they call TUI material, including these text messages, the group text messages between Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, Brian Albert, and Nicole Albert, the ARCA reports, all of it. Here you go. Assuming, as any good prosecutor would, that they should perhaps drop the charges against Karen Reed. But they didn't. Because as Matt McCabe said in the family group text, if she pleads, it's over. If not, it's going to be a whole episode. We're on season 3. Season 4 will begin when some people wind up in handcuffs. And it just might be better than season 3 of the civil cases. Looking for nudes.
And he was disappointed he hadn't found any yet. That is the professional and unbiased investigator who was chosen to lead the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe. You will learn that one of Michael Proctor's high school friends commented to him that with a dead body on the front lawn, the homeowner in this case is surely going to catch a lot of grief. And do you know what Michael Proctor's response to that was? One word. Nope. And he explained why.
We have an emoji for that, a nope emoji. I can't use it because I have an iPhone and YouTube has not fixed the worldwide problem with iPhones and member emojis. But if you're a member and you have an Android and you can use the nope emoji, let's see it. This is exactly where it came from.
Michael Proctor assured his buddies that the homeowner would not catch a lot of grief because, quote, the homeowner's a Boston cop too, end quote. That one sentence, ladies and gentlemen, in Michael Proctor's own words, will explain a lot to you about how this investigation was conducted. You will be able to evaluate whether Trooper Michael Proctor treated Brian Albert and his family differently because of who they are and their relationships between his family and theirs. You will evaluate whether this investigation was on the up and up. You will decide, as a result, how valuable or worthless the prosecution's DNA evidence is or is not. In light,
The one little hair that could. This is only 25% into David Yannetti's opening. It's one of the greatest openings I've ever heard. I still love it. And we learned a little bit about what was in Michael Proctor's phone. And today, you're going to learn a lot more. Thank you, Mrs. Bouquet, for your super sticker. Are you ready? Buckle up. And here we go. When I start reading the text messages, I'm going to take down the screen and I'm just going to read it to you. If I just say the word blank, blank is going to stand for the N word. You know what it is. Please don't put it in the chat. And if you put racist words in your super chats, I'm not going to pull them up. For example, Charlie, I will thank you for your super chat from Down Under, but I can't put that up on the screen. It will get me demonetized. So guide your actions accordingly. This is why we can't have nice things. This is why sometimes we can't play Zoom because people don't know how to mute. It's hard, I know. Unimpound town, here we come. Let's go. This was filed under seal, but yesterday, June 11th, 2026, it was vacated by Judge Doolin. Because even he knows he's not protecting Michael Proctor anymore. Remember Rosemary Scapicchio at one of the last hearings said, why are we protecting this man? Why are we protecting Michael Proctor? Why should we listen to anything his attorney has to say? His attorney was in court yesterday arguing about Michael Proctor's right to privacy and how it would be so embarrassing if the public heard what he had in his phone and that we shouldn't do anything to ruin his life any more than it's already been ruined. It's about to get a whole lot worse for Michael Proctor. This is in the Commonwealth versus Myles King, Norfolk Superior Court. Defendant's second supplemental motion to dismiss. On August 14th, 2025, King filed his supplemental motion to dismiss for egregious governmental misconduct, Attachment A, which discussed the Commonwealth's discovery disclosures and violations up until Notice of Discovery 34 on August 6th of 2025. This was almost a year ago. They've been fighting. Since the August 14th, 2025 filing, the Commonwealth has made 7 additional discovery disclosures, including the October 30th, 2025 first Proctor phone disclosure and the November 20th, 2025 second Proctor phone disclosure. These recent disclosures demonstrate egregious misconduct on the part of the Commonwealth. Proctor's texts and photographs reveal such deep-seated and atrocious racial animosity that infected the entire investigation in violation of King's rights under the Sixth and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution and Article 12 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, such that dismissal is required. Citing a whole bunch of cases. Factual background. King incorporates the arguments in his original motion to dismiss filed May 28th of 2025 and his first supplemental motion to dismiss filed August 14th of 2025 attached. The Proctor materials disclosed on October 30th and November 20th, 2025 do not stand alone. They constitute another layer in the cumulative pattern of egregious governmental misconduct already pleaded in King's first supplemental motion to dismiss, and they must be evaluated together with the discovery violations, withheld exculpatory evidence, and grand jury irregularities documented there. A. Procedural history of Michael Proctor's personal cell phone. Yeah, start your rage cleaning now. It's going to be great. On April 14th of 2025, King filed defendant's supplemental motion for discovery relating to ex-MSP trooper Michael Proctor's and his associates and supervisors. King specifically requested Proctor's personal cell phone from the dates of this indictment to his firing. Motion at page 1. On April 24th, 2025, King filed a motion to preserve and produce Proctor's cell phone records, including Proctor's personal phone. That same day, the court, Judge Doolin, ordered the preservation of Trooper Proctor's personal and work phones. On June 17th of 2025, Judge Doolin allowed King's motion to preserve and produce cell phone records for Proctor's personal cell phone. And this is quoted from the order. As to the communications, including the content, call durations, times, and numbers involved on former State Trooper Michael Proctor's personal cell phone from the date of the charged murder, July 10th, 2021, to the date of the indictments, November 19th, 2021. The Commonwealth shall promptly produce any other data from Proctor's personal cell phone that constitutes investigative material or is favorable to the defense within the meaning of Massachusetts Rule of Criminal Procedure 14. On July 25th, 2025, Proctor filed third-party Michael Proctor's motion for clarification of court's memorandum and order dated June 17th, 2025, and for a protective order, okay? Proctor filed this. His attorneys filed this. Do you remember the evidentiary hearing that the judge ordered that we watched and Lally was on the stand being grilled on Rosemary Scapiccio's barbecue about why he didn't turn over discovery and what he did to try and get it from Michael Proctor and why he didn't turn over those search warrants that he had since the grand jury and what kind of records he kept. And he was just like, he couldn't have cared less. He had literally, Mark Bederow likes to say that Adam Lally has the personality of a dial tone, and he couldn't care less, this guy. It was wild. And then all of a sudden, I forget who the judge was. It might have been Judge Krupp, called off that evidentiary hearing. Proctor was supposed to be there, but he was on vacation or something, so he didn't show up. And then it was put over to another day, and then it never happened, and it hasn't happened since. And this, now we know why. Now we know why. Baby shark. Baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark, do 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 do. Sorry if your kids just perked up a little bit. That was his hairdo. He had that little baby shark hairdo. That was a choice, that hairdo, like your little kids used to have in the tub when they were little. The bubble bath. On August 13th, 2025, this court, Judge Krupp, issued an order clarifying the order regarding the examination of former state police trooper Michael Proctor's cell phone. Attached, the court ordered, by August 25th, 2025, Proctor shall provide his personal cell phone to the Commonwealth and disclose the carriers for his personal cell phone to the Commonwealth as required at page 7 of the initial order. Order at page 2. Charlie, don't be confused by it. Here's the thing. Thank you again for another 5 from Down Under. YouTube has bots that go through and scan the chat. And if the chat is saying things that YouTube doesn't like, the creator gets in trouble. So putting the triple K word in there is not something that YouTube likes. And I'm not going to risk my channel, but I love you very much. It's not personal. And I thank you again for another super chat so that I could explain it to you. Don't be confused. That's the way the bots work. The court further ordered that Commonwealth shall extract a full digital copy of all the data on the cell phone, maintain a copy, shall provide a copy of the extraction to Proctor's counsel, and shall return the cell phone to Proctor. Order at page 2, footnote 1. Footnote 1 reads, King continues to request that his expert have access to the phone to do more in-depth searches to undelete any deleted messages. Wait, what? An expert can undelete deleted messages? Did we know that? Huh. That's wild. Who had a whole lot of deleted messages on their phone that we might have heard from in one of the trials or two of the trials? Or you mean Myles King has an expert who can undelete deleted messages? That's crazy. Why did nobody do that? She's telling us everything. Rosemary Scapicchio is going to be the queen that breaks this whole thing open because she fought tooth and nail for her client, Myles King. And that's how all this stuff came out, because Karen Reed's trials were over by this point. They got what they got from the feds. And that's all they got, because every single time they made a Rule 17 motion, Judge Cannoni denied it without a hearing. We watched one the other day involving lawyers for Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and Kevin Albert. And Kevin Albert's lawyer was not Rosemary Scapicchio, even though Tully said he sent her a copy of the motion because she was Kevin Albert's lawyer. And she went on Twitter and she said, I have never represented any Albert. That is complete and total BS. And the Commonwealth knows it. On October 16th, 2025, the Commonwealth filed a notice of discoverable information under Rule 14b2 and motion for additional time to complete review of former state police troopers' cell phone. On October 30th of 2025, the Commonwealth disclosed the first batch of Proctor's personal phone materials to King. This disclosure contains some of the most heinous, racist, and disturbing conversations that counsel has seen in over 30 years of practice as a criminal defense attorney. So she's been sitting on this since the day before Halloween. 8 months. And she's been screaming at every hearing that she wants this stuff released and she doesn't want a protective order. And you're about to find out why. On November 20th of 2025, the Commonwealth disclosed the second batch of Proctor's personal phone material to King. This disclosure contained both disturbing text messages and racist photographs that no person, never mind a sworn officer of the law, should generate, share, and celebrate. I know I was shaking when I first read this. Physically shaking. You are going to be ill when you hear what I have to tell you. And so again, once again, I'm going to warn you. B, the disclosed text and photographs, attachment B2. Okay. I can't put these on the screen, so I'm going to read them to you. I know you're pacing. I'm sorry. It's a trust me, bro type situation. You're in the trust tree, right? We're in the trust tree together. I'm going to read them to you, but when I say blank, blank stands for the N word, okay? This is the only way I can do this without getting us in trouble. I just have to move my screen over here. Hang on. All right. I got to move you over to this screen, so hold on. All right, just excuse me then while I look over here, because that's what I'm going to have to do. All right. This is examples of text messages sent by Proctor to the group chat. And footnote 2 says, King is also filing a USB drive under seal with the discovery provided by the Commonwealth about Proctor's phone. So that part of this motion was not unimpounded, and that is still sealed, the USB drive. This is just what she's chosen to put in her motion. These are examples. This double standard / reverse racism that blanks get away with absolutely infuriates me. Footnote 3 says, in the text, the full N word is used. We have chosen to modify it for this filing. Detroit should be destroyed along with places like Flint, Michigan. They are breeding grounds for blanks to run wild. Detroit should be destroyed. I just said that one. 9 whitey people and 3 Negroes on the jury. I was planning on tying a blank up and dragging him from my bumper through the streets of Randolph. You see a blank, just kill it. Ha ha. Cookie, let's get some horses and white sheets and burn a cross in the Arboretum. I mean, I told you it was going to be bad, right? I don't know who Cookie is. Maybe we'll find out. Hope she gets graped in the butt by a gang of 300-pound blanks. Hey, blank, go fetch Sir Bear his wings and pizza. Ha ha, I'm up. Just got some blank pulled over who's unlicensed and debating arresting or giving him a summons. I will never see a movie anywhere else. No blanks, obnoxious kids, and ample room to spread out and float some biscuits. I don't even know what that means. Ha ha, ha ha. Michael, We could use them blanks as dartboards. It should be punch a blank day in Canton today out of retribution. Any shine you see blasted in the face. I think that you can remind me again what it was that Runkle talked about that. And I think it has to do, it's an old time racist expression that has to do with shoe shining. I think. It's not in my vernacular, so I have no idea. Well, blanks smell regardless. The first phone call that kid will make when a fellow blank broke into his house or cars to the cops. Pendy, I haven't shot anyone, but I did pull a blank over today for tossing a cigarette out the window. Ida D. Ghana, let's enslave those blanks. My car needs a cleaning. Oh, great. Now the blanks have a straight pipeline to Canton. Oh, so he's even mentioning, Canton. He's putting Canton in here too. Two park rangers stabbed in Boston Common has to be the work of a blank, which is BS that these blank animals resort to that. I'd rather COON. I'd just shoot the blank or scare him off by telling him he has to work. And then that's the only one of two that has a date, October 1, 2018. And then Kenner. I don't know who Kenner is, but I think we're going to find out. These blanks are holding signs for you all at the All-Star game. That's July 9th of 2019. Before we move on to his other text messages, let's just take a break and go to the chat for a minute, shall we? Julie Jensen, thanks for your 10. McCabe was right. If she doesn't plead, it's going to be an episode. Imagine if Karen did plead. None of this would have come out. Thanks for your 10. Jay says, Proctor's obsession with black people needs to be studied. Myles King should definitely have this case dismissed. Is Kevin Foley in law enforcement? I don't know. We're going to get there. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can Google him, or if you know who Kevin Foley is, keep it in your pocket. Michelle says, Yuri's from the Ukraine. Many of the Canton PD is bald, and with these texts okay, again, that's not stuff I'm going to read, but thanks for your 5. Desiderata said, I could not read this without you, Melanie. Thanks for doing all the hard stuff with us. You're loved more than you know by so many. I love with all my heart. I'm so thankful. Thank you very much. Hold on 1 second. Oh, that's the problem. I have too many windows open. It's getting really drafty. Okay, now let me put this back up. Perfect. Now it's on my same screen, so I can look here instead of there. And BB, thank you for your 10. Says, I don't remember the exact day, but I do remember you saying before trial number 1, this is bigger than Karen Reed. You're always right. Always our queen. Thank you, Aunt BB, for your 10. Who needs Saturday Night Live when you have Late Night with Melanie? For us UK people, it's our 10 p.m. show. That's awesome. I'm glad you could stay awake for it. It's spelled Yannetti. Didn't I spell it that way on my banner? I know exactly how to spell his name. What do you mean? That's how I spelled it. Thank you, Melanie Parker, but isn't that what it says? Yannetti? I'm a stickler for spelling, so thanks, but I had it right, so I'm not sure if that was directed to me or someone else. Gen X Gen I Am said Marcy should immediately resign and Connor drop out. You think? On top, thanks for your super sticker. Shelly, thanks for your 5. Says, listening from the beginning, just a smidge late. Love you too. Friend of Dog gifted 10 memberships. That's how amazingly generous you guys are. Thank you so much for your generosity. And look at Fire Pilot's wife gifted 20 memberships. You guys are amazing. This is a hard one to get through. We're going to do it together. I promise you. And here we go. Let's keep going. Examples of texts that Proctor received from other members of the WhatsApp group. So apparently Proctor had a WhatsApp group with some of his buddies and or some of his coworkers. We're not sure. But we're going to use our context clues to try and guess who some of these people are, because now their text messages are going to be on blast too, because they had the misfortune of being in Proctor's phone extraction, because Proctor thought he had everything set to delete every 90 days. So when they were forced to give over his phone, he was like, no big whoop, no biggie. They're only going to get stuff from the last 30 days. And I've been a really good boy the last 30 days. I haven't said anything racist or misogynistic or anti-Semitic or homophobic in a very long time, because, you know, I got caught. Or maybe he used a burner. But here's some WhatsApp messages that he received from others. Kevin Foley wrote, Ape Economics, a financial system run by blanks by which a prosperous nation is converted into a cesspool of poverty and misery. I wouldn't police the black neighborhoods, honestly. Let them do it themselves. Fargo, someone with the nickname Fargo. In response to the above, Kevin Foley stated, let them kill each other. Quote, my question, what country treats blacks as well as America? What country offers them a better quality of life? Even 3-year-old blanks are terrible humans, Fargo said. Then there's somebody in here by the name of Larry Kennedy. And Larry, let's see. Kevin Foley was a CPA for the IRS who passed in 2025, says J. Michael, RN. Then somebody else says Kevin Foley was a Pennsylvania state trooper. I'm sure there's a lot of Kevin Foley out there, so I don't want to like spread any misinformation. So unless you really, 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 really know who Kevin Foley is, let's not just Google a guy whose name is Kevin Foley and guess. And Larry Kennedy said, shoota, there's an S word there that, you know, if you think of the word boo, you'll know what that S word is. And then Larry Kennedy goes on to say, this is why I hate blanks and we should send them all to an island to kill each other. I hate blanks, said Kevin Foley. Bear, go get the blank and string them up. What kind of a-holes stabbed 2 park rangers? They just want to protect the trees. That was written by somebody named Trendy. Rocket blank, a blank attached to a rocket who flies around stealing stuff like cars, basketballs, fried chicken, and people's legs. Blanks will riot no matter what the outcome is, to which Proctor responded, whatever the course of action is, these blanks will riot. Let the sand blanks kill each other, said Fargo. Fight a blank and a white. White don't win, we all jump in. Hashtag die blank day. Proctor also had offensive photographs on his phone. A few examples include, I'm not going to show you this photograph, but it is a little boy, a little black boy in a cage with what looks like 2 little, like almost like a big giant bird cage kind of on the floor. It's not in color, so I can't really tell. There's a clothesline behind there with some clothes on it. And 2 little white girls like kind of waving through the cage. Another offensive photograph says, it's hard to see because it's like a photocopy of a photocopy. It looks like it's probably a meme. If it's brown, flush it down, and it's a picture of a toilet. Then there's a guy in a shirt that says, this shirt is allowed to say, and then it's got the N word in giant letters. Because it's black. It's a man wearing a black shirt. I'm not, would I lie to you? I'm not lying to you. I swear. And then there's another meme that says, why don't black people get sunburn? Because prisons are indoors. Okay. Now I can put this back up for you. Is it worse than you thought? Or are you not fazed by it at all? These are only snippets of the derogatory language and offensive photographs that Proctor and his associates used consistently in their group chat from 2013 until 2023. All right, here, if you want to, screenshot it for yourself and go back and read it later so that you can know that I wasn't lying to you. 10 years. No wonder she was so mad. Every time she spoke about this, she was shaking. How dare he? How dare we have a how dare you emoji? If you can get it on your phone that's not an iPhone or your laptop, maybe you can get it. Maybe not if it's Apple, though. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's not fair. Members should get a discount or a refund. Letter C, Proctor's role in King's case. Michael Proctor was the lead investigator in the Myles King case. Proctor was on the scene the day the homicide occurred on July 10th of 2021. Wow. Wow. Do you mean that in July of 2021? 6 months before the murder of John O'Keefe, Michael Proctor was a good enough lead investigator that he knew he had to go to the scene of murders to investigate them? My eye is twitching. Gerda says, if he was in South Africa, he would be sent to prison for hate speech. Proctor authored all 6 search warrants in King's case, coordinated video canvases, reviewed video evidence, directed other investigators in King's case to obtain Simmons's property from BMC, and went to BMC himself to try to obtain the property. Even in the discovery documents provided, Proctor is listed as the investigator assigned to the King case. Proctor interviewed many witnesses in this case, including Kristen Lacoste on July 15th, 2021, with Milton Police Detective Mark Simildoro, firefighter Brian Feeney on July 19th, 2021, paramedic Ryan Mitchell, July 19th, 2021, Finesse Carter on July 21, 2021, with the same Milton Police Detective, Ovani Dorset on July 30th, 2021, with the same police detective from Milton, Husnain Akram on August 24th, 2021, with Milton Police Detective Lieutenant Michael Collins, Dion Knight on September 7, 2021, with Milton Police Detective Sergeant Kirsten Murphy, Sherelle McElroy on September 7th, 2021, with same Kirsten Murphy of Milton PD, Michael Johnson on September 20th, 2021, with Milton Police Detective Mark Simildoro. On September 2nd, 2021, Proctor received a picture from Kevin Foley in his WhatsApp that said, "Going from Cam Newton to Mac Jones is like driving through Mattapan Square and entering Milton," to which Proctor responded, "That's great and accurate." Proctor testified at the grand jury in King's case on September 30th of 2021 regarding the investigation, the timeline, interviews he had conducted, and evidence he had reviewed. Proctor provided reports and updates to ADA Lally and coordinated witness materials for the grand jury. Well, see, Lally, well, we know Lally was involved in Myles King because he testified at an evidentiary hearing briefly until he was cut off before he started saying the wrong thing. And he really didn't care at all, did he? I'm shocked that he's still working for the DA's office and that he didn't try and parachute out of there and maybe start his own firm. Hold, please. Proctor worked with Milton PD on joint interviews and follow-up communications with witnesses. In sum, Proctor had a hand in almost every aspect of the investigation and in formulating the case against King. As such, this entire investigation is flawed. Remember, this is only 6 months before his investigation, if you want to call it that, I'm going to use the air quotes loosely, into the murder of John O'Keefe, a Boston police officer. He also had his hand in almost every aspect of the investigation against Karen Reed, as did Tully. Who's next? Argument. The court has the power to dismiss King's case, according to a whole bunch of cases. In a case of first impression in this Commonwealth, King moves to dismiss the charges against him on the basis that the lead investigator of his case held views so fundamentally racist and opposed to him as a black man that the entire investigation was tainted by the lead investigator's bias, and that no action save dismissal will be enough to clear that taint. When they say this is a case of first impression in the Commonwealth, that means this has never, ever happened before. Congratulations, Michael Proctor. You, sir, are quite an overachiever. Not only did you manage to get yourself fired from the Massachusetts State Police, which in and of itself is a crazy feat, but you also were able to get the police union to back away from you so fast, like a hot potato, that you dropped your appeal to try and get your job back as a Massachusetts State Police trooper. And when that happened, the head of the MSP said, "We are happy to close," or something like this. I'm summarizing, obviously. We are going to turn the page on the most embarrassing chapter of Massachusetts State Police history. Well, Mr. Jeffrey Noble, Colonel, is it? Or Colonel, as somebody said in a news piece recently, Colonel Jeffrey Noble, you may want to reopen that chapter because it's not done yet. It's not done yet because we ain't got no quit. Rosemary Scapicchio ain't got no quit. And we're going to keep screaming about this until every last one of these mofos that deserves it is in handcuffs. Okay? In the alternative, King requests that this court dismiss the charges against King based on Proctor's egregious misconduct to, quote, create a climate adverse to repetition of that misconduct that would not otherwise exist. Finally, King requests an evidentiary hearing on King's motion to dismiss to further develop whether Proctor's racial bias was known and or shared by any other member of the prosecution team. And because King has shown an inference of racial bias in Proctor's investigation of King and an abuse of government power in violation of the Equal Protection Clause, citing a whole bunch of cases from the U.S. Supreme Court and also the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Roman 1, the lead investigator's racism constitutes egregious government misconduct that tainted every aspect of the investigation, such that King can never have a fair trial. Okay, this would be a pretrial motion to dismiss. We just saw Adam Montgomery, who, if you believe he took the life of his beautiful 5-year-old daughter, Harmony, and all of the horrifically disgusting and grotesque evidence against him and the gruesome details of that crime, the Supreme Court of the state of New Hampshire has overturned the murder conviction of Adam Montgomery and granted him a new trial because they said it was too prejudicial and not fair to Adam Montgomery to allow the assault charges from July of 2021 and the murder charges of December 2021 to be tried together. He's getting a new trial. Do you think, based on what you're hearing so far, that perhaps Myles King's case should be dismissed? And how many other people are sitting in prison right now? How many? How many? Here for change. Thank you. Somebody who's got the inside baseball on this says, I'm here from Norfolk County, and Kevin Foley was a Canton police officer until he was discharged for a sting operation. Looks like he's now an assistant football coach at Bridgewater State. Whoa, man. Oh man, don't reach out to him. Don't go find him. But thank you for coming in with the inside baseball. So he was with Canton PD. Oh, okay, cool. Well, we learned a whole lot of stuff that went on, messages between Sergeant Good and Proctor. Oh, Emily C. emailed me articles. Good. If we have some time after this very long reading, we will get to it. Thank you, Emily. You're the greatest. Baby, you're the greatest. Karen's trial should have been dismissed too. But the thing about Judge Cannoni is, thanks, Carrie B., she never even held an evidentiary hearing for Karen Reed. She simply just issued an order that said, well, Michael Proctor just hid all this Sallyport video and other video outside the Sallyport in his drawer. And it wasn't bad enough. There was so many reasons. We should go back and read that decision again. So many reasons why, what he did wasn't egregious enough to dismiss Karen Reed's case. But we saw Aaron Spencer's case dismissed because of the mishandling of one piece of evidence. The dash cam and SD card of the dash cam that was in the alleged victim's truck. Wasn't logged into evidence, no chain of custody. And so the judge in Arkansas dismissed the charges, the murder charges against Aaron Spencer, who's now running for Lonoke County Sheriff. A, standard for dismissal based on egregious government misconduct. This was the same exact motion that Karen Reed made. It was called the same thing. Motion to dismiss based on egregious government misconduct, right? Massachusetts courts have recognized that dismissal of an indictment may be necessary when the government's conduct is so egregious as to prejudice the defendant's right to a fair trial. Proctor is a member of the prosecution team and a lead investigator in this case, and that is true. Mark Bederow and I both say that this is wild to us because this is not the way it is in New York. They've got specific Massachusetts State Police troopers assigned to specific DA's offices. And so they work hand in hand for decades. And that's a very weird and wild thing, but that's how they do it there in the upside down, inside out Narnia of Massachusetts. We are so far back into the wardrobe, so deep into Narnia that it is wild. Police conduct may be found egregious where it involves coercion, violence, or brutality, persistent exploitation of personal weaknesses, or where it is shocking, outrageous, and clearly intolerable, and that's in bold. In cases alleging egregious government conduct, the focus is not on the propensities and predisposition of a specific defendant, but on whether the police conduct revealed in the particular case falls below standards to which common feelings respond for the proper use of governmental power. Under this approach, the determination of the lawfulness of the government's conduct must be made, as it is on all questions involving the legality of law enforcement methods, by the trial judge, not the jury. The Due Process Clause protects certain immutable principles of justice, which inhere in the very idea of free government. In evaluating outrageous government misconducts, courts have emphasized that these criteria should not be rigidly applied, and the ultimate determination is whether the government's conduct was so shocking, outrageous, and clearly intolerable that due process is offended. It's a U.S. Supreme Court case, U.S. v. Nolan Cooper, it's a Third Circuit case, 1998. In Monteagudo, the SJC addressed the defendant's claim that an undercover state trooper had engaged in egregious misconduct by recruiting him into the drug trade, allegedly supplying money for a pager, directing him to locate a cocaine supplier, and threatening that his family was going to pay for it if he refused to cooperate, and selling cocaine to the trooper on 3 occasions thereafter. The court held that the question of outrageous government conduct is one of constitutional due process law reserved exclusively for the trial judge, not the jury. The court articulated the threshold that governs the defense. The challenged conduct must be shocking, outrageous, and clearly intolerable. And this is a case from 1998, Massachusetts case. And here she's going to tell us why she thinks Proctor's conduct is shocking, outrageous, and clearly intolerable. And Rosemary is telling us, and I'm sure she really did the research and didn't have AI do it, that this is what the case law says. It's up to the judge, not the jury, and that it should be dismissed. Proctor was the lead investigator in King's case and was involved from the day the homicide occurred. Same as in the Karen Reed case. Proctor was on the scene immediately after the homicide. Well, he never went to 34 Fairview on the date of the murder, never went to the scene. He just went to the other scene, which they told us was the Canton Police Department. And I guess if there was a crime that occurred at the Canton Police Department, like something went awry in the Sallyport with Karen Reed's Lexus, maybe it was the scene. Maybe it was a crime scene. He interviewed witnesses, collected evidence, reviewed video footage, authored all 6 of the search warrants, and testified at the grand jury in King's case. Those are the 6 search warrants that Rosemary Scapicchio was fighting for years that she couldn't get. That That's what Lally was testifying about. And then that's the reason, also, part of the reason why Myles King was granted bail. Since been rearrested by the feds on alleged drug charges. So he's under lock and key, federal holding somewhere, I think. I don't think he got bail in the federal case. In other words, Proctor had a hand in and guided the entire investigation. Remember how after trial one, they tried to back away from that and make him like a customer service representative, co-lead investigators, you know, the case manager or something. They didn't want to call him the lead investigator, and Buchanan took, you know, lead in everything. He was the boss of Proctor. Remember that? I do. He did all of this while holding the beliefs that Black people should be enslaved, that Black people are animals, and that they should be killed. And then I have to take this down again to just read to you the following. Quote, "Eat a D, Ghana. Let's enslave those blanks. My car needs a cleaning," which is BS that these blank animals resort to that. I was planning on tying a blank up and dragging him from my bumper through the streets of Randolph. You see a blank, just kill it. Ha ha. Cookie, let's get some horses and white sheets and burn a cross in the Arboretum. Cookie, you're on blast. How's it feel? Soaked in his racial bias and hatred for Black and brown defendants, Proctor investigated King, a Black man, while holding the belief that all Black people commit crimes, that Black and brown people are not human, that they are blanks, again, the blank is the N-word, and deserving of punishment no matter the cost. Proctor believed that locking up blanks made the community at large safer. Quote, 2 park rangers stabbed in Boston Common has to be the work of a blank. When did that happen? Does anybody know when the two park rangers were stabbed in the Boston Common? Does anybody know for real, like an actual real answer to that? When that happened? Because none of these are dated. These racist views infected the entire investigation. This was not a search for the truth. It was a modern day lynching in which inflicting pain and securing the confinement of Black and brown people, whom Proctor referred to as shines, N-words, poo, and poo people, was not just accepted, but celebrated. Celebrated. Remember him talking about Karen Reed? He used to say she leaked poo, poo, poo. And I didn't know that he also used it as a slur for Black and brown people, apparently, too. Interesting choice of words. Any prosecution infected with racial bias and hatred to the degree that Proctor expressed freely and celebrate about to his fellow conspirators is an improper use of government power in violation of King's rights under the Sixth and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution and the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights. If the celebration of the killing of Black and brown people, reference to Black and brown people as objects, with the goal of making the white community safer by locking up Black and brown people, is not shocking, outrageous, or clearly intolerable conduct of the type the court outlined in Monteagudo, then it begs the question whether anything an officer does would cross that line. 1, explicit bias. Bias has many forms and manifestations. On the face of it, explicit bias is the worst. When explicit intentional biases occur in the justice and legal systems, it is especially alarming, as people can be wrongfully convicted, and conversely, guilty people can go free. According to some sort of treatise or publication on bias, the hidden bias cascade and the bias snowball effects, published in April of 2025. The text and photographs sent and received by Michael Proctor on his personal phone can only be described as explicit bias against Black and brown people. In King's case, these communications demonstrate Proctor's explicit bias against Black people. Okay, thank you. Irish Girl says 14 October 2014, 2 park rangers stabbed by a homeless man. Okay. So his incredibly racist views and opinions predate Myles King's arrest and indictment charges 2014. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kara. For all of you who knew. D. Miller says these are so much worse than I imagine. In King's case, these communications demonstrate Proctor's explicit bias against Black people. This is the type of racial bias that the courts have categorized as evil, and that if left unaddressed would risk systemic injury to the administration of justice. Citing cases from 2020, 2017. Pena Rodriguez versus Colorado. That's the 2017 case. The rationale of Pena Rodriguez applies with equal or greater force to a lead investigator. The Supreme Court in Pena Rodriguez held that the no impeachment rule must yield where a juror has expressed racial animus because race is a familiar and recurring evil that demands extraordinary procedural protection. Even if a single juror's racial bias requires that ordinary rules give way, then a fortiori, the racial bias of a lead investigator who, unlike a juror, is not constrained by the rules of evidence, who alone determines what evidence is collected, which witnesses are credited. Oh, yeah, we know. And what facts the prosecution and the jury ever see must trigger the same departure from ordinary procedural defaults. The Supreme Court reinforced this principle in Buck v. Davis in 2017, where it held that the appearance of racial bias in even a single phase of a capital proceeding that required relief, observing that, quote, some toxins can be deadly in small doses when race is involved, where, as here, racial bias infected not a single phase, but the foundational investigative phase that produced every warrant, every witness statement, and every fact placed before the grand jury. The structural error framework of Vasquez v. Hillary, a 1986 U.S. Supreme Court case, and Buck requires dismissal without any showing of particularized prejudice. I wonder if there are any messages between Michael Proctor and Brian Albert, Michael Proctor and Kevin Albert, Michael Proctor and Brian Higgins, because the hearing that we looked at yesterday that went all the way back to March, I don't know now, was it March of 2023 or 2024? I don't recall, but it was a Rule 17 motion to try and obtain their phone extractions in the Karen Reed case was denied by Judge Cannoni. I wonder if there are any messages between any of them and Michael Proctor that might be in this phone extraction or WhatsApp messages or Snapchat messages, because we heard his lawyers say yesterday, Michael Proctor's, at the Zoom hearing, that there was Snapchat messages in there too. Wow. Maybe that's why they destroyed their phones. I don't know. I'm just spitballing with you. And Proctor was stupid enough, I guess, in their minds, not to. Could it all be on there anyway? Could it be discoverable in Karen Reed's case? Could it be discoverable in Aidan Carney's case? What do you think he said about Aidan Carney? Wow. Miss Jessica calls it Snatch Chat. Oh my God. Wow. Well, guess what? Judge Doolin isn't protecting Michael Proctor anymore. Nope. And this is just a sampling, according to Rosemary Scapicchio. There's a full USB drive attached that is still sealed. A person who refers to Black people as the N-word, as animals who all commit crimes, who deserve to be in cages and enslaved, who objectifies them, refers to them as it. If you see a blank, kill it, and believes they should all die, is not capable of conducting a fair investigation into King's case, right? And every other person of color whose case he ever investigated ever, since he became a Massachusetts state trooper in what, 2012, 2013? I don't remember right now. Proctor's own words reveal his explicit intentional bias, and he held those beliefs while he was investigating the King case. It appears from a review of the evidence that Proctor followed up on and credited the accounts of white witnesses while disregarding the accounts of Black witnesses. It just gets worse. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Thank you, D'Artagnan O'Hara, for gifting a membership. Well, I tried. Thanks for your 5. Says, if we can get Proctor's Snapchat, why can't we get Colin and Allie's Snapchat? Oh, I think that's going to be coming in the civil case. That would destroy their alibi. Snapchat, quote, deletes itself. I don't know. I don't know the intricacies of Snapchat, but apparently they can get it. They got his WhatsApp. Somebody, I think maybe you might have to log out of it for. I really don't know. I really don't know. I'm not a forensic expert, but I like the way you're thinking. Thanks for becoming a member, Ollie. And thank you for your very sweet compliment, Luna's mom 2495, and for being here for 29 months. You're so sweet. Thunder 1966 says, I'm so glad to be off that horrible block island. I had to survive. It's rough over there, right? I don't know. YouTube blocks people. I guess maybe you sent me an email and I was able to fix you. Thanks for your 5. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Let's keep going. Chrissy Mel is on the way to see Dave Matthews winning. Chrissy Mel, have a great time. He's in Mansfield tonight, right? He's in you guys' neck of the woods. You guys, do you see my new posters behind me? Maybe when I make the screen larger, the center one is the tour poster. It's a foil poster. And then the one over there is the Forest Hills Tennis Stadium poster. It's amazing. I switched them up for you a little bit. Thank you for your 10. And Ellen says, Proctor gets his phone back. Not Aiden nor Karen, though, to this day. Did he get it back? I don't know, Ellen. Thanks for tuning in from Denmark. Tazo, yes, it's disgusting. Let's keep going. A further evidentiary hearing is necessary to flesh out this intentional bias and racism. It's very possible that Proctor did this intentionally because of his explicit bias. Even if this court finds that Proctor's actions in the King case were not the result of intentional explicit bias, Proctor was undoubtedly driven by his implicit bias against Black people. Next is implicit or cognitive bias. This is number 2. Cognitive bias is an outcome, a byproduct of people's cognitive architecture and of how the brain processes information. Within the justice and legal systems, cognitive bias has been defined as the class of effects through which an individual's pre-existing beliefs, expectations, motives, and situational context influence the collection, perception, and interpretation of evidence during the course of a criminal case. Citing, I think, that same article or treatise or whatever it is from April 2025 and another one on confirmation bias. The Massachusetts courts have acknowledged how implicit bias can affect everyone's ability to come to fair conclusions. The courts have published model jury instructions on implicit bias that are read both before and after a jury hears the evidence in a case. There is near consensus among experts based on studies of populations that implicit bias can affect human behavior, including decision-making. Attachment C. Implicit bias is, here's your definition, widespread. Although explicit intentional bias exists, it is not as common and widespread as a cognitive or implicit bias. Whereas the former is exhibited only by some bad apples who are deliberately and intentionally biased, the latter cognitive bias is a ubiquitous phenomenon that impacts everyone due to the top-down nature of human cognition and other aspects of cognitive architecture. Implicit bias is also harder to detect as it often occurs without conscious awareness of the person who is exhibiting the bias. Dror, who's the author, further explains that bias does not stay confined to a single decision maker. Bias cascades when a bias introduced into one element of the justice system contaminates other elements, and bias snowballs when biased decisions feed back into and reinforce one another, growing in power as they propagate through the system. The lead investigator's racial bias is precisely the kind of upstream contamination that cascades through the entire prosecution into search warrants, witness selection and interviewing, evidence collection, grand jury testimony, and the charging decision, and snowballs as each downstream actor relies on the bias work product of the one before. Wow. I mean, you could just scratch and sniff this right into the Karen Reed case, right? Plug and play. Proctor had his finger into everything involving Karen Reed's investigation, the search warrants, the witness selection and interviewing. He didn't record any interviews. He didn't have any interviews signed by any of the witnesses. He did it at their homes. He didn't separate them. The evidence collection, not just Proctor, but, well, yes, Proctor. Let's talk about John O'Keefe's clothes that were thrown on the hospital room floor, which happens in a hospital when they're trying to save someone's life, right? Tossed them all into a bag all together wet and left them in that bag for how long before they were put out to dry and left unattended in maybe an evidence room at somewhere, unclear, before they were eventually logged into evidence some 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks later. I've lost track at this point, but we know there's no chain of custody on any of the clothing of John O'Keefe. Solo cups, leaf blowers, glass that doesn't match other glass. The crime scene left unsecured for an entire day. No red taillight pieces were found with the leaf blower by the Canton PD. They didn't start showing up until after Karen Reed's Lexus was in the Sally Port. Michael Proctor lied about what time it got there and what time they got to Dighton and all that stuff too. Why would he lie about that? And then all of a sudden, big red pieces of taillight start showing up in the dark after another something like 12 to 24 inches of snow fell, which wasn't even investigated. The evidence wasn't even collected by the, what's the name of the team? It's not the CSI team. It's the, the real evidence collection team. It was collected by the CERT team, whose primary focus is searching for missing people. Okay. People just popping onto the crime scene. There's no log of who signed in there, who signed out, who showed up and at what time. No log of what time these pieces of evidence were found, I don't think. And if you recall, they were given a scavenger hunt list. Here's what you're looking for. A couple pieces of taillight and a sneaker. Ready, set, go. And after a couple of pieces of taillight were found, Tully was like, yeah, no, we're good. We're good. In fact, I think somebody even asked Tully for a picture of the taillight. One of the guys who was on scene after it was left unsecured all day. Because, it's really hard to put up crime scene tape in the wind and snow and snow and wind. There's a juror from trial number 2 who did an interview on a podcast, a YouTube show that has almost 2.5 million subs. I'm not familiar with this podcast. Tell me the name of it. I think it's called something like H2 or H3. I'm sorry if I'm misnaming them. He was on there a couple days ago. I watched it last night. It's wild. Even he was a younger guy, and he was like, yeah, they were we couldn't put crime scene tape up because the podcast host didn't really know a lot about the H3. Thank you. About the Karen Reed case. And so he was kind of teaching them about it. He's like, yeah, they didn't even put any crime scene tape up. This was the murder of a police officer. And they were just like, yeah, it's snowy. And the podcast hosts were like, what? And he said, yeah, they blamed the weather. And he said, the juror said, and we're, looking at each other, or I'm thinking, it's New England. It snows all the time here. What are you even talking about? It's a great interview. I'll link it below if you haven't seen it. I don't want to play it for you without their permission. But he's like, I don't believe that he got hit by a car. I mean, crazy. He had a lot of things to say about a lot of the evidence. Here, there can be no claim that Proctor's racist views did not interfere with the investigation of this case as either explicit intentional bias or implicit cognitive bias. To hold the views about Black and brown people that Proctor does and to investigate Black and brown communities impartially is an impossibility. Oh, and juror, you did come on camera. So if you happen to be watching tonight, my email is in the show notes below. Love to talk to you. Love to have you on this show too, if you'd like. I want to hear everything that you have to say. There is no way to separate the taint of Proctor's racist views from the investigation he conducted as a lead investigator in this case. Every decision that Proctor made while investigating the King case was infected by, in some implicit or, in Proctor's case, explicit way, bias against Black people. Proctor's actions are shocking, outrageous, and clearly intolerable, such that King could never have a fair trial where Proctor was the lead investigator. As such, the charges against King should be dismissed. Roman 2, King need not prove prejudice to obtain dismissal. However, King has been prejudiced in any event. A says King need not prove prejudice where a lead investigator harbors deep-seated racial animus. Where the racial bias of a member of the prosecution team is as overt and unrelenting as Proctor's, no separate showing of prejudice is required. Does anybody remember how many terabytes Proctor's phone extraction was? Only if you really remember, for real. Like Emily C., like Olivia, like Corey Hopkins, like somebody who really can remember and really knows for sure. I think Rosemary Scapicchio said something like the entire extraction when printed out of Proctor's phone was something like 44,000 pages, including text messages, I guess, WhatsApp, Signal. Oh, I don't know about Signal. WhatsApp, Snapchat, photos of intimate body parts, voice memos. We heard some of those in the Karen Reed complaint. And we played some of those news pieces that had the actual audio, which was in an exhibit to Karen Reed's complaint against the Canton PD and the MSP. And all these people out there, all these people who stand with Proctor after Karen's complaint was filed said, so what? What does that have to do with, framing Karen Reed? There were text messages in Karen Reed's case in which Proctor told us that he would cross the line to planting evidence. He said, and I quote, something like, so I can't really quote, I'm summarizing. Yeah, I think I'll just shove a nightstick up his butt, plant a bag of Coke on him and tell him you're going in. Tells us he's willing to cross the line and plant evidence. That is perhaps, despite all of these horrific, disgusting things that he said, could be one of the worst. Here we go. If there's a troll here, Scott will take care of it. Little Cupcake, Scott Messerschmidt. There are a couple of people here, a couple of mods here. Who is it? Name him. Name him. It's easier for me to find. Why don't I just block out letters with my red pen like I normally do instead of hiding them altogether? I don't know what you're talking about. If you'd like to read it, it's readily available. You can go find it if you want to get your own copy. Don't come in here and tell me how to do things. I don't really take to that very kindly. I don't want to put it up on the screen because the last time I did block them out in red, and I still got flagged as not friendly to advertisers. So that's why, if you need an explanation. I guess we weren't here for the last stream on this, the Karen Reed complaint. Oh, a $1.99 troll? Oh, then that's an easy one to find. I'm sure that it's already taken care of. Please. Oh, thank you, Danielle Brand. Mel's ex said worse, and she knows it. Sorry, really? You mean my dead ex, who's from Norfolk County? That's so crazy, Danielle, that you would bring that up. Where did you come from? What rock did you crawl out from underneath? You disgusting troll. What a sad life that you must have to come in here and pay me only $1.99 to disparage my late ex-husband. You're a real peach. the reason I got involved in this case. I wish he was still alive so that I could ask him more questions about what happened to him when he was a kid by these same police officers, not the same one, but the same departments. Yeah, thanks. Got it. Where the racial bias of a member of the prosecution team is as overt and unrelenting as Proctor's, no separate showing of prejudice is required. The SJC Court's decision in the Commonwealth versus Dew establishes that bigotry of this kind is itself the constitutional injury, and the defendant cannot be required to reconstruct after the fact the precise ways in which a deeply racist actor's decisions warped the proceedings. You can see when the trolls start getting out of control, it's like whack-a-troll sometimes in here. You know that they're getting really, really, really afraid. Really afraid. Because that's when they start getting into personal attacks, paying to have something like that read on the screen. They really want attention because they're trying to deflect from the horrors of what is going on here. Okay? That's when they all start getting really afraid. And you will remember that the Haas plaintiffs, Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and Colin Albert, made a motion for a protective order so that all of their communications with the Norfolk DA's office and anybody who works there, including Michael Proctor, be impounded. And so far, it has been granted. Okay? So I think that maybe by using our context clues, some people are very, very, very afraid that despite the fact that they have chosen to sue Karen Reed and Aidan Carney for defamation because they believe that their reputations have been besmirched by those two and what they believe are truths that they have been speaking. We have a troll emoji too, if you like to use it. That their communications with Proctor and others working at the Norfolk DA's office may be soon released. And boy, wouldn't that be a little egg on your face? Imagine. Stop talking about us. We want our privacy. We just want our privacy. We just want our privacy. The Harry and Meghan season 26, episode 2, South Park episode, the worldwide privacy tour of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of Canada. And yes, that is, don't tell me not to interact and who to interact with and not to interact with, okay? They're going to pay me $2. I'm going to give them their 2 seconds of fame. Don't tell me what to do. Yes. Don't you think? People are getting really, 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 really nervous because people like me and other people have been screaming into a closet that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car and a car did not hit John O'Keefe. And, conspiracies happen, cover-ups happen. Have you heard about the Catholic Church scandal? They don't want to hear it. Again, we the people, goodbye. Goodbye. Now you're the one who's going to go away. Okay? Bye-bye. Here we go. Just over 6 years ago, the SJC wrote an open letter to the members of the judiciary and bar of the Commonwealth acknowledging the grave and ongoing threat that racism poses to our criminal justice system. The letter's call to create in our courtrooms a place where all are truly equal echoes long-standing Supreme Court language that racism is fundamentally at odds with any notion of real justice. Discrimination on the basis of race is a source of injury to the law as an institution, to the community at large, and to the democratic ideal reflected in the processes of our court. I mean, you know who's out there. You know who's on Twitter. Chris Albert has a very, everyone knows who Chris Albert is on Twitter. Everyone knows who has the fake me account. It's like, I still think the minimum super chat should be $2.27 too. 18-wheeled Maligator crate. I'll take their money every single time. You think I won't? You think I won't? Gotta grift, right? You know who they are. It's hardly surprising, therefore, to find a myriad of cases in which racism has been at the root of structural error. Grand jury selection, racial bias of a juror, racial bias in exercising peremptory challenges. I'm trying to think of there was a case in Massachusetts. Masstad, if you're here, remind me. The garbage man was arrested for the murder of a woman. And it turned out that there was racial bias on behalf of one of the jurors. And they called the jury back in. What's the name of that case? Why can't I think of it? Let's see. You know which one I'm talking about, right? She had a consensual relationship, I think, with the garbage man who happened to be black. And then there was they called the jury back in, and I think they overturned it. It was on the Cape. Krista Worthington. Thank you, Candy Cane. That's right. It was the murder of Krista Worthington. Yep. Thank you very much. So that's one example in which they did call the jury back. And that's what it was. Krista Worthington. We talked about that case at length when the whole Karen Reed double jeopardy thing was going on. Okay. The SJC has repeatedly confirmed that racial prejudice is so antithetical to the integrity of the criminal justice system that even the possibility of racist motivations can constitute structural error. Based on Proctor's own text, there's no doubt that Proctor was racially prejudiced. We know of his bias and bigotry as a result of his repeated declarations of hatred against Black people and celebrates the very idea of killing and enslaving Black and brown people. In Commonwealth v. Dew, the court held that counsel's bigotry against persons of the defendant's faith and race, which manifested during counsel's representation of the defendant, deprived the defendant of his right to a fair trial. In Dew, the court found that the defendant had shown a pattern of posts reflecting the intensity of defense counsel's bias, coupled with a record that defense counsel was unable to divorce his animus from his conduct as defense counsel. Although we cannot know with certainty whether defense counsel's actions or inactions during the course of the representation were motivated by anything other than the defendant's best interest, on the record before us, we cannot credibly assume that defense counsel's representation was not affected by his virulent anti-Muslim and racist views. Importantly, we cannot know whether an attorney who did not share the animus that defense counsel harbored for persons of Muslim faith and Black persons would have negotiated a better plea agreement, nor can we know. That's wild. So the defense counsel was the one who was racist. And then it seems like that defendant got a new trial. So this is a case of first impression. This has never, ever happened with an investigator before. What do you think is going to happen? Hang on for 1 sec. Please. Might have a special guest for you in a few seconds here. And so they go on to keep talking about why this case should be dismissed based on Michael Proctor's clear, inherent, and explicit bias based on these text messages, WhatsApp messages, etc., and talk about other cases in which Muslims were involved, defense counsel is involved, but the analytical framework should remain the same in that bigotry creates an actual conflict of interest that cannot be cured by post hoc speculation about its effects. And so it translates in this case of first impression to Proctor as the lead investigator. Moving on. It's going to go through some more reasoning that intense racism and bigotry of this kind does not develop overnight, and that overt racist statements during the representation are not required to constitute an actual conflict. Talking about some more cases, and here, the disclosed Proctor materials span from 2013 to 2023, which is a continuous, unbroken record of explicit racial animus that encompasses, rather than post dates, the entire investigation of King in 2021. And also, I will point out, the entire investigation of Karen Reed. Proctor was actively exchanging racist messages while investigating King on September 2nd of 2021. Between the homicide and his grand jury testimony, Proctor received a message from a fellow group chat member that going from Cam Newton to Mac Jones is like driving through Mattapan Square and entering Milton, to which Proctor responded, "That's great and accurate." If post-dated racist conduct supports the Badgett inference, contemporaneous racist conduct establishes the conflict directly. Here, there's no question that Proctor's communications cross the line from defensible political positions to expressions of extreme racism, at times directed toward defendants he was investigating. Thus, there's no question that Proctor had a conflict of interest, which would render any investigation into King, a black man, fundamentally unfair, and its result unreliable. In a rare case like this, failing to provide a remedy is pernicious, not only because it deprives King of the right to a fair trial, but also because it systematically infects and poisons public confidence in the judicial proceeding, injuring the law as an institution and the community at large. Any claim by Proctor that he no longer holds these racist beliefs, or that those beliefs did not interfere with the investigation in the King case, must be discounted. Proctor was sending and receiving racist messages while he was investigating the King case. On September 2nd, 2021, while actively investigating King, Proctor received a picture from Kevin Foley in his WhatsApp that said that exact thing about Cam Newton to Mac Jones. That's during the investigation. In any event, King has suffered actual prejudice, it goes on to argue. He has shown it. Everything infected the investigation because of his racist views, including interviewing witnesses. It's going to get a little repetitive, and we are going to wait for Mr. Bederow to join us. He needs to get to a computer. Before we do that, let's take a look at some of your questions, because there's a lot of them, and I want to use Mr. Bederow's time wisely to give you his thoughts. And he can talk a little bit because my voice is getting tired. Thank you, Charles Argo, for tuning in from South Africa. Why am I not surprised his behavior on the stand showed what kind of arrogant POS he is? Maria Spaghetti, thank you so very much for your 5. Brass says there is a Kevin Foley on post, Norfolk Sheriff. Thank you. Brass, we are outraged, says Kelly. Thank you. It is sickening, not my circus. Thank you for being here. Allison, thank you for being here. Charlie, thank you for your super chat from down under. Can they subpoena Lally's phone? Maybe. Thank you, Nate Taylor. We'll see. Well, let's see. That's a good one for Mr. Bederow. Let's ask him that. JoJo's Grave Concern, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Craft Tassicle, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. God save us from the Commonwealth. Adam Deitcher, DA, says strange credulity. Thank you. Miss Left Coast, do you think AJ already had this info? I don't know. If not, it's now a blessing that Proctor's depot was delayed so he can use this too. I think they did get it. They did get it. And they asked for a special permission to use it in the complaint that they just filed. And so they have it. Whether or not Mr. Bederow has it, I don't know. But I don't think he can even answer that question. But he's here. There he is. Hi, Mark.
Hi. Answer what question? Probably not.
Yeah, he probably can't answer that question. But what are your thoughts, Mark?
Wow. I mean, there are racists, and then there are just raging, virulent racists with a capital R. And I mean, this guy's whole life appears to revolve around commenting about people based upon their race, as well as other things. You saw the homophobia, the anti-Semitism, the whatnot. But I think what's most troubling about all of this, there's probably plenty of racists, but most of them don't have guns, arrest power, shields, and whatnot. But in a lot of these messages, or some of them anyway, you actually see the bias directly as it relates to his job. I mean, he talks about laughing about pulling a guy over and should I give him a summons or make an arrest? That may not be the most dramatic message of all the bunch, but it's messages like that I think are the most damning. I mean, that shows that he's not a part-time racist only off duty. He's a full-time racist 24 hours a day, and it does impact his professional judgment. And that's exactly what they're arguing, in the motion that you were reading earlier. And you just see multiple examples of that. I mean, you see him talk about whether he's going to give someone an arrest or summons. He laughs about pulling a guy over for smoking a cigarette. In the other messages from last week, he talks about planting evidence and ramming sticks up people's rectums. Where do you even go with this guy? And he what did he do? He made a kind of a reference to that. What was that kid's name? Matthew Shepard, was that his name? The one that got dragged? No, I'm conflating. God, what was the name of the black guy, this hideous thing in the late 90s who was dragged by a truck? Do you remember what I'm
In
talking about?
Massachusetts?
No, it was, no, I'm sure Proctor's up to date on all of the, racist goings on around the country and probably subscribes to the newsletters and, all of that. No, there was the guy, I think it was somewhere in Texas.
Matthew Bird in Texas. People are saying.
I don't know.
Matthew Shepard. Matthew Shepard.
No, Matthew Shepard was somebody else.
No.
But in any event, it's just one example.
Jasper Bird. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Bird sounds familiar, the last name Bird. But anyway, you just see references to all these various things, and it's constant with him. It just goes on and on. And you also now see it's not just Sean Good, right? On the other end, that's becoming clear.
Any idea who this Kevin Foley is? Yeah.
No, I don't know who any of these people are, whether they're police officers or not. But I mean, Michael Proctor has opened up a can of worms where he's going to be the Massachusetts version of like Detective Louis Scarcella in New York, who, became quite a figure. He was a prominent homicide detective and was accused for years of all kinds of misconduct. And about 13 or 15 years ago, some of that became founded. And there's been a scandal going on in Brooklyn since then. And many, many convictions have been reversed, some on actual innocence, some just on due process. And, that's going to happen here with Proctor. I mean, he's involved in so many of these cases. And the King case, I think, is the most interesting one for the simple reason, by all accounts, due process and presumptions of innocence aside, he sounds like a pretty dangerous dude who it may not be in the public interest to have him, running around on the streets. And he's not, because the feds eventually locked him up. But, and I don't know if you talked about this earlier, but the posture of his case is fascinating. And it shows you the damage that Proctor already has done in that case and may very well continue to do. I mean, this guy was in jail for years, right? And he got out on bail.
Like 4 years because Lally didn't turn over the search warrants. Let me just thank JPS for your 10 memberships. Thank you so much, because I just deleted it by accident.
Right. He got out on bail, not because he made bail and he was a good candidate for release. He got out on bail because, Lally, who probably should have been fired related to this case, if not Karen Reed's case, and Proctor couldn't somehow figure out how to disclose search warrant affidavits, which makes no sense. They disclosed like 2 out of 6 pages, apparently, or whatever it was. And you saw, at that hearing that occurred shortly after he got released, where Lally had the attitude of whatever. I mean, who cares about any of this?
Yep.
And I think Proctor, correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't show up. He was subpoenaed. He went on vacation. He didn't show up. And somehow, some way, and this does happen in these cases in Massachusetts because there were so many new stories and new scandals and so many new pathways to go down, it just kind of got forgotten. I don't know that it was ever adjudicated.
No, it was supposed to be continued. And then Judge Krupp, I think, was at that hearing. He pulled the plug on it. And then he started, getting into other areas of it. And then she's made this newly, the second motion to dismiss. And now she wants another evidentiary hearing because we were all waiting. I remember it was last summer. We're
Yeah.
all waiting
And
for
so,
the next hearing. Never
and
happened.
so this alleged murderer gets released for reasons that are entirely the fault of the DA's office and state police, who are basically one and the same in that county. And then what happens? He goes out and allegedly commits a whole nother series of gun and drug crimes, gets swept up by the feds. But you can see like that this is an important case. Proctor is the lead investigator. Clearly, I don't know how much he matters or doesn't matter in the case, but the case is at on some level going to be in peril, because any skilled defense attorney is going to mention the name Proctor and try to wrap it around his neck and tie the noose as much as you can and just hang him and blame him for all of this. And every juror is going to know who Michael Proctor is, and there are going to be Black potential jurors, and it's going to be real interesting. And if the DA tries to strike them, you can expect Batson challenges. Are they trying to strike people because you think they're preordained to think that Michael Proctor is a racist? Well, guess what? You don't have to be Black to think that. You just have to have a pulse to think that.
Right.
In a heartbeat. He's clearly. He's disgusting. You didn't think a week ago, you didn't think it could be any worse than what you saw, and it's worse. It is.
And we know how skilled Rosemary Scapicchio is. We've seen her in action. She's been fighting for this since October. She's had this since October. And the reason that she got it to the extent that she did is because Proctor's own attorneys went in there and moved for clarification of the order, which originally was only from the date of, I think, the arrest to the indictment. And then I think it was it Krupp who said, no, it's going to have no date range at all. You can have all of it.
Yeah. It's out there now. This is going to impact other criminal cases. Leave that for what it's worth. It's going to impact civil cases, and it's just going to follow them around for, years of this. And, it can't be understated how significant all this Proctor stuff is going to be on all this ongoing back and forth civil litigation, where in essence, the central issue in all those cases is whether, a car hit John O'Keefe or whether evidence was planted, taillight pieces. And the more that comes out about Proctor, the more likely it is that any reasonable juror would be willing to conclude that he has it in him to fudge things, help do things, lie, plant evidence, lie about this, do that. That's not appropriate. And it's going to impact all those cases. How could it not? So this is the scandal that's just going to keep on giving in that regard.
Well, I don't know if you heard me, but I just was, bringing up the fact that the Haas plaintiffs, Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and Colin Albert, just made a motion for protective order in the defamation case, asking that all of their communications be sealed with anybody who works at the Norfolk DA's office, including Michael Proctor. So it just begs the question: who knows what's in there? And could that kill the defamation case in more ways than one? Why else would you move for a protective order? Everyone knew this was going to happen. They knew this extraction was out there.
I'm not going to touch that one.
You don't have to talk. That's your case.
Not the defamation case, but I'm speaking just generally. The O'Keefes are suing Karen for wrongful death. Well, if she didn't cause his death, then she's not liable for his death. That's kind of basic logic. And if a jury believes that Michael Proctor was involved in framing, planting evidence, and doing all kinds of nefarious things, and he's a misogynist and whatnot, that's going to hurt them. And they have his transcript from that first trial. And if you go and read it, it reads differently, even now, knowing everything about him in terms of the apology that he gave, his claim that I wasn't looking for nudes. Do you believe that? Knowing what you saw released already, it impacts the credibility of his supervisors, who claim that he was, a great police officer, had rave reviews. They liked some of his texts, and they claimed, it was just that he sent it. And, you start to wonder, if this guy is a raging racist, misogynist, homophobe, anti-Semite with his high school friends in that one chat, with Good in another chat, in a separate chat with other officers from all over the place. I mean, are people supposed to believe that nobody in the state police knew this?
Well, of course they knew it. They knew it
Right.
since his February 2024 testimony to the federal grand jury. Because remember, I think it was it Tully and Fanning who went over to do a wellness check on him? And, they said that they weren't allowed to give him bad reviews because they signed an NDA with the feds, so they couldn't talk about the text messages that they fully knew about.
I'm talking before, like in real time. I mean, these guys like to go out and get wasted together. I mean, you think, what are they talking about when him and Kevin Albert go out and get wasted and, lose their gun, lose their shield, do all that crazy stuff? You don't think Michael Proctor is giving his opinion on, world history and, you have who doesn't get together, have a few beers, lose your firearm, and just talk a little bit about how wonderful Hitler was, and dragging black people through the streets. I mean, that's just a common thing that obviously you would expect police to do. How do all these other people not have any idea in real time? I don't mean by the time of the trials that this was not who he was. I mean, how do people in the DA not know? They're not told this. Nobody blows the whistle on that guy's a dirty dirtbag. And again, you go back and you see all the bias that he has, and you see examples in the text of him talking about like job related bias, and you go back to the Karen's case before the trial, the second trial, the motion to dismiss, which is a very strong motion, which the judge gave little attention to. But you remember Lally's defense, if you will, which is not a legal defense. It was a don't blame me, blame him, even though we both are responsible legally.
Right.
Was it ain't me, babe. I didn't have it was in his pocket the whole time. The video, the famous video. And
just didn't care.
I mean, why was there never like any investigation of Proctor about any of this? I mean, how did they, when they learned about the first round of messages in 2024, on top of learning about the Arcus stuff, how did they not take a deep breath, call a timeout, reevaluate, and say, maybe we ought to look into this? I mean, that's what the public expects from a prosecutor: do the right thing, whatever it is. And they don't.
Well, you're talking about Marcy here, who's been on the public dole for decades. He's always been in public service. He's always been an elected official somewhere. He's never had a real job. How many secrets, remember Ken Berkowitz's retirement party? That video has disappeared from the internet. But at Ken Berkowitz's retirement party, Brian Higgins said something like, well, if you need to bury a body, Ken Berkowitz is your guy. And that video is gone. It's scrubbed from the internet. I mean, this goes so much deeper than Karen Reed, and they really, really needed, in my opinion, a conviction of Karen Reed so that none of this would come out. And this is exactly what's happening now.
I'm not into politics per se, but I mean, I'm obviously watching what's going on in Norfolk County in this. And I don't know anything personally about Greg Conner. I mean, he's a serious candidate, obviously, but the more you see of this, at what point is he required to be collateral damage, meaning it cannot be anyone associated with that office? They have to fumigate and just nuke the whole place clean and get rid of all of them and start over. And, I mean, it just, you saw some of the interview clips of him from a few weeks ago with someone else. And, it sounded like he thought the job was his, almost as like a family business, just, I've been here my whole life. This is my professional calling. I know these people and I'm going to do the right thing, and just tag me in and I'll take the baton from Morrissey. And I don't know how anyone at this point, the more you see about this, whether he is a good candidate or not, can just say, I'm in favor of anything and anyone who's been in that office and watched this happen and not taken any action against it. I mean, the best thing you could say about him is he didn't call Proctor in that case, the Walsh case, which, I mean, you didn't need him. But I don't know if you do that with King. I don't know. I don't know enough about the facts, whether they can or they can't. And if that case gets dismissed, and it probably should on the misconduct angle, although I think a judge will bend over backwards to attempt to see if there's a way not to do that. Although if you ever, in Massachusetts, they allow dismissal under two bases. I know this because I wrote about this. And I've seen other cases, but one of them is just in so many words to send a message like no more. And Michael Proctor in Myles King is the poster child if any judge ever has the courage to send that message, and no one will be happy. I mean, you don't want corrupt law enforcement, so you're happy about that, but you could have a potential stone cold killer being released, although he still has the federal problem. That might make it easier for a judge, actually.
Right.
That I'm not literally putting him on the street. But if ever there was a case where something's just going to be dismissed based on just actual, just gross misconduct, even without prejudice directly in that case, this is probably as strong a case as you'll ever see for that, because how can you not judge every decision he made in a case where the defendant is black and not question whether Proctor was motivated to get him because he's fantasizing about dragging him down the street on the back of his car or all the other terrible things he said.
I think Doolin's assigned to this motion. Doolin's the one who unsealed it. I think Doolin's no fooling. I think Doolin's he's doing the right thing so far. I think if anybody's got the cojones to do it, it's him. That's what I think. I mean, we've seen Krupp. I don't think Krupp would have the cojones to do it. Cannoni definitely wouldn't. Cannoni would just, make up a whole bunch of bullshit on a piece of paper about Michael Proctor hiding stuff in his drawer, and it's not really prejudicial and it's not egregious. Don't worry about it, because it's no prejudice to you, ma'am, because you get another trial. That was her whole reasoning for that. And it was wild, and she just made it up out of whole cloth. And I hate that expression, but I'm going to use it anyway. I think that another reason to dismiss this case on the papers, so it doesn't even get any further, is because how much worse would it be if this case went to trial and Michael Proctor had to get on the stand and testify to all this stuff? How much worse would it get for the Norfolk DA's office?
I don't know his role in this case, but I don't know how a prosecutor can possibly call Michael Proctor ever again on anything. He's that damaged, and I don't know how you can put him up to try to prove a fact. Now, again, if it's a murder case and you're concerned, you have no choice. That's a tough call for them. But the real question that I'd want to know, and I'm a big fan of evidentiary hearings for, where does it go? Where does it lead? And who else do? I'm concerned about who else knew about this. I mean, the prosecutor, other people in the state police that worked the case, that's a Milton case, right? Myles King is in Milton, right? I mean, are any of those people that he was talking to, are they Milton police? And if so, did they work on the case? I don't know. Did Lally know, right? This isn't, Lally's case. Is this why Proctor didn't show up? Because he was afraid of this? I don't know.
Well, he knew. I mean, he had his lawyer working on the motion to keep it impounded, so he knew that it was out there. He knew. I mean, is that why he, disappeared to wherever he disappeared to? I don't know. Witness protection, rehab, sex addiction camp. I don't know. Sex addiction camp. Nobody knows where he is. Why
couldn't these two people, who between the two of them have probably 50 years of law enforcement experience in that county, somehow are unable to locate search warrants and turn them over in whole, as opposed to here's page 3, but that's the best I can do. I can't give you, 1, 2, and 4 through 6. I mean, none of this makes any sense. And there's going to be clearly more coming out. I mean, you can tell. And, other people are going to try to get their hands on this and want to talk about that and how that relates in other cases, and how Michael Proctor might talk about other people, even people, that he has.
Of course. I mean, I said this earlier. If he's got nudes in his phone, we all know, because Aiden has said that on his phone, there are, potential news of him and other people like Lindsay Gattani. And I've been screaming that if Rosemary Scapicchio has them and other people have them, the Commonwealth has them, that if these people can be identified by these photographs, I think they should absolutely 100% be told that they are in Proctor's text chains and that he's been sharing their photos around with his buddies and other people. And they will have a huge civil case.
I certainly wouldn't speak to what is on the phone that we're talking about that he might have taken. But if it turns out that he took evidence that was secured as part of an investigation and was sharing it and in terms of gossiping and trying to satisfy, his own prurient interest or his other friends' prurient interest with material from an investigation, then obviously we would take that very seriously and seek, the most severe sanctions, both criminally and civilly. I mean, I don't even think you've seen anywhere near the full development of what comes from this with this guy.
My initial thought when they were saying that Proctor was, going to be unavailable for the foreseeable.
Nope.
To me, that would make sense, that he's hidden somewhere in witness protection and, we can't let him out because then everyone will know where he is if he shows up for his deposition. But I don't know that. I don't think it's come out where he is. And if it's a private medical thing, then we shouldn't know. But the Judge Gilday didn't seem convinced. He didn't buy the story. He's like, you show up for your deposition tomorrow. I don't care where you are.
I mean, the man had a subpoena, and this is now 2 times he has not complied. Now, again, I want to be careful about what happened a couple of weeks ago because, there is something that was impounded, of course, it's Massachusetts, but something that relates to his explanation as to why he couldn't appear, until that's really known. I wouldn't want to speculate about that, but I think a guy like him generally doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't show up to testify in this other case. His credibility is as low as a law enforcement officer's credibility can be. And don't forget, this is a guy who, it's not like he got caught and just kind of fell on the sword and tried to redeem himself. He denied a bunch of things in Karen's case when he testified. After that case, he tried to go on the worst PR and most ill-advised PR tour organized by his family and that weirdo from Rhode Island, reporter or whatever he is.
Oh my God, that guy. Oh my God.
Who tried to basically sell him as, some kind of quasi-hero, essentially. And think about this man's character to let his family go out there, vouch for him, knowing what you knew, knowing that how racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, probably corrupt, all these other things that you joke about, and let them do that and not think eventually it's going to fall in your face and comes out, and now you've embarrassed your family. You have lost that appeal was the most ridiculous thing ever, right?
Right.
What happened once they learned about the messages. His lawyer, see you later. You have these interviews of Proctor that are forever. They're going to be used. I mean, those interviews are going to be used probably, a lot more effectively than clips were used at Karen's trial by the prosecution. I mean, you've got this guy just a year ago, knowing everything that's coming out today, being thrown these softball questions about is there anything that you would do differently, or words to that effect. And he sat there with that look and said, no. I mean, that's not good.
Nope. And he said the reason that he said all of those very mean things about Karen Read was because he was overcome with emotion because a Boston police officer had been killed and he was overcome with emotion and hatred for her.
That's what I was referring to earlier when I said you go back and reread his testimony. And I even talked about this in real time when he testified to this. Even without knowing what you know now, that testimony about I got emotional about the crime, so I lost my mind, was so patently absurd on its face. And all you have to do is say, you're a homicide detective, okay?
Mhm.
You investigate horrible cases by nature, okay? Every case is horrible. And by homicide cases, and this is not to demean what happened to John O'Keefe, but a car collision isn't emotionally to a disinterested person, obviously to his family and friends, but and remember, Proctor's whole thing is, I'm disinterested. I'm not one of them. I'm not with the Alberts. I'm not with the McCabe's. A disinterested investigator would not be impacted by a collision in which a car backs into someone, especially when you have all these other cases going on at the same time. You have a young woman whose husband chops her up, discards her all over the place, Walsh. You have all these other cases. You ask any detective, there's always a few they remember that are just, babies, kids, whatever.
Yep.
And the question in real time back then, and why he made no sense, was, if that case upsets you, you're not fit for duty, my guy. You if that's your excuse, and that makes you so emotionally unstable that it causes you to say the things that you said about her, number one, nobody believes that. But number two, if you accept him at face value, he's showing that he can't handle his job. And the real answer is, if he was pissed, he was pissed because it's his buddy and he's got to protect people. That's the theory. That's what was presented at the trial. That was what they basically opened on, and it's what they argued. I mean, about nothing's going to happen to him. He's a Boston cop. I mean, they think they played those text messages even in the opening statement, and then they had him read them later in the case. This guy is a scandal that is still metastasizing. I mean, it's growing and spreading. It's already destroyed Good, right? I mean, Sean Good is officially now a disgraced, racist embarrassment to the Canton police. God knows any other officers are going to get dragged into that.
What about Lank? Where's Lank in all this? Lank has been the Ray Donovan of the Albert family for decades. He was involved in the whole Lopolito brothers thing. And I read today somewhere that it was not only Lank who was involved in that, but also Sean Good. That was something like 2002. And then the Lopolito brothers wound up suing the town of Canton, got a whole bunch of money because they made up false charges against them, beat them up. Do you remember this? Because they were allowed to get into it, I think, in trial number 1. But I don't
know about Lank and where it goes, but I mean, you mentioned Good, and then go back and take a refresher course in Good in Karen's case. Didn't he, when he got the first 911 call, he kind of had knowledge of the gathering, which would suggest, was he an invitee to the gathering? I don't know. Isn't he the one who put the wrong address, 32 Fairview?
Well, he answered the phone when Kerry Roberts called to say, oh, my friend's boyfriend didn't come home, John O'Keefe, whatever. So he's already on notice that John O'Keefe is missing. And apparently he knew John O'Keefe. And then he answered the phone again.
Right.
When Jen McCabe called 911.
He was there when Higgins was wandering around at 1:30 in the morning to do his administrative duties.
Right.
And it's his report, is it not, that has the wrong address and all the misspellings and the famous B. Albert instead of everyone else has their names written out.
I'm not sure if he wrote that initial investigative Canton, because that was the Canton PD report. I'm not sure if he signed that one or if that was.
I don't know if he signed it, but he was involved in and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but he was involved in the early stages of that. And I guess my point becomes, he seemed just kind of like a nothing character in all this that back then.
He did. He's the one who went home and got the leaf blower and then came back with the leaf blower because Gallagher told him, go get the leaf blower, come back. And then he videotaped Gallagher with the leaf blower.
And then you just find out that I mean, I think the paperwork was his. Someone will know and correct. But I mean, you find out that him and Proctor are basically like sharing the same mindset of, wanting to be, in the KKK. This is crazy. I mean, the way these men talk as police officers in 2026. And, another fallout from this, which people from Massachusetts know this, whether it's fair or unfair, there is a perception across the country that Massachusetts is one of the most racist states in America, that it has been. That's just the way.
Really?
That's a perception. It's been that way. In that, the Boston area has segments that, with the whole school busing issues from years ago and all kinds of things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I would think maybe like in the South, they would be considered more racist than Massachusetts, but that's wild. And thanks, Proctor, for proving everybody right who thought that.
Has, again, fairly or unfairly, has been accused of being not a great place for Black people in like since the 70s, 80s, whatever. And you see these messages between these guys and in a position of power talking like this. So, and the thing about it, so casually, I mean, with such ease, it just flows out of them regularly. And there's no, I mean, well, in all fairness, we're getting snippets. I mean, but I assume that there's no, oh my God, why did I say that? I'm just kidding. Not that that would make it okay, but I mean, the examples and the language that they use, I mean, there are things in here. There is a picture of a Black child caged in a bird cage, like a seal. I mean, and these guys are sending these photos back and forth while active duty police officers in modern times.
It makes me wonder if his sister and his wife knew the extent of his racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny. Like, some people say, like, how could they not? But like, some men might not always speak that way in front of their wives or their sisters, and so I don't know if they knew, but the fact that they did that, that interview, I forget who interviewed them, but they got, out there on the publicity tour right away. And I don't remember if it was after trial 1 or trial 2. And I don't know. I just don't know.
I don't know, but I start to wonder how more people couldn't know, simply because, again, he talks to his high school buddies and says all these inappropriate things. He talks to Good and says all these inappropriate things. You're now on at least your third friend group or work group chain saying things. We know he said certain things to Buchanan and to Tully. I mean, he at least joked to Buchanan about no new nudes, right?
No nudes so far. Yep.
Something. Maybe that's not the one he sent Buchanan, but he was sending inappropriate messages and getting thumbs up. And, at some point as the supervisor, he'd say, what are you doing? Is there something?
Well, that was the one to be, I think, Buchanan, Fanning, Tully. I think they were all on that group because it was all the troopers, DeChico, Kukowski, and they were all, as if it was, something that they did.
Only the men, which tells you they knew, they were consciously aware. I'm not supposed to do this. I know this is wrong. And, because, whatever you think of the guy, they're not morons, whatever, people think of them.
I beg to differ.
Well,
in your analysis.
They're smart enough to know I can't just blast this to the whole team. I have to pick and choose, which tells you they know it's wrong. They know they shouldn't be doing this, but he doesn't care. I mean, I'm looking at, I printed out some of the messages from today, and these are just insane. I mean, you see a Black person stated differently, of course, the
blank word. Yeah. I just say blank for that word. Yeah.
Just kill it. In other words, if I see a Black person, you should be authorized to just kill, not him or her, it.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
is the word. I mean, where, it should be punch and whatever day in Canton today out of retribution. What? I mean, this guy.
I mean, Karen Reed's complaint went on to Anne Frank was a liar type stuff too. And so this, while this filing is obviously focused on the racism because they're going on to say that Michael Proctor decided who to believe and who not to believe, and he gave more credibility to white witnesses than black witnesses. We've seen how he does witness interviews. We saw how he did them in the Karen Reed case. Not separating them, bringing them in all together, going to their house.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be race or whatever. The problem that they have.
There's just so much more, is what I think.
Right. The prosecutors
on every level.
Prosecutors generally don't want to acknowledge is that you have ample evidence that this man is just biased against so many different people, and that there is a good faith argument to be made to juries that anyone of a particular class or somebody in which there is actual evidence that he doesn't like, that it is entirely possible that he is so out of bounds in his thought process and his bias against anyone and everyone that he doesn't like, that he is willing to cut corners, look the other way, plant evidence, which he has alluded to, make arbitrary stops of people because he doesn't like them, which he has alluded to here about a black guy. He did that too. Maybe make a custodial arrest rather than give someone a summons because he doesn't like them, which he has alluded to. And I mean, I'm not going to get into this now, but there's another certain individual that he really, really, really doesn't like.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's evidence of that. And there's evidence of discussing that and what ought to be done about that. And that entitles, criminal defendants to get access to this kind of evidence that the prosecution has and to explore it. And if it's relevant to the man's credibility, it ought to come in. And it's too bad for Proctor. There's no concern about the prejudice it causes him. He did it himself, clearly.
I mean, what's he going to say? I hate everyone except white men, so you can't get my phone extraction because your client's a white man. Right? I mean, that's his only argument. I can't be any further embarrassed. I mean, his lawyer is sitting in the dark yesterday on a Zoom hearing. He was literally in the dark in more ways than one. He was in the dark on Zoom arguing about Proctor's privacy rights and how he's already been embarrassed enough. We can't unseal this because he's already been embarrassed enough. He's never been arrested. He's never had any charges against him. He's a great guy. He did all kinds of things that are wonderful. It was insane.
I mean, look, I never fault a lawyer for taking difficult cases with difficult clients, and I know all about that.
I'm not blaming the lawyer. I'm blaming the position that his client put him in.
Right. But for a lawyer, though, I mean, to make an argument that...
The only argument he has.
Well, it was Clint Eastwood as Dirty Harry who, said, I'm all broken up about that man's rights. Of course, that was different. That was, a suspect in a crime that he tortured to get evidence. But in all fairness, I don't know any court or anybody deciding what's right here when you have people who are criminal defendants or civil litigants in a serious case, and there's relevant evidence that Michael Proctor is deeply involved in the issues at hand, that would say, well, we have to respect Proctor's privacy rights. First of all, he's a police officer. Okay. That is what's called a public servant. All right. You handled these public cases. You butchered them, you discredited yourself. They have less privacy than private citizens who are called private citizens, not public servants. So that's, the first point with this. The other thing, any claim that, well, I'm doing this on my own time and this is on my private phone. I mean, that's a Twitter lawyer argument. That's kind of, I think, what they like to argue. And, they like to die on the hill of, well, there's no evidence of any corruption. He's a racist on his own time, but when he goes to work, he's great. No, actually, the problem is, if you're doing things that contain admissible and relevant evidence on your personal phone,
Mhm.
but the prosecutor is aware of it and has access to it, or stated differently, it's in their possession, custody, and control, and there's a good faith reason to believe that that private device does have evidence on it, guess what? They are obligated to ask the difficult questions, gather the difficult evidence, hold their nose, and disclose it. So the fact that it's on his private phone, you can't avoid disclosure of evidence, that's relevant to a criminal case by saying, "Excuse me for a minute, I need to switch phones," and go to your personal bat phone and somehow be immune from, a defendant's constitutional right to due process. That is not how it works.
Well, we've talked about this a million times. When you start doing state business on your personal phone, everything becomes discoverable.
Right.
And the defendant's right to a fair trial trumps your right to privacy, Mr. Proctor. Sorry. Too bad, so sad. Should have thought about that. Should have
Every
used a
time.
burner, maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, a criminal defendant's due process right to favorable, Brady, Giglio, whatever, exculpatory evidence will trump Michael Proctor's non-constitutional right to privacy. And even if it was wrapped up in some kind of constitutional argument, where those clash, a criminal defendant is going to prevail over a police officer who says, "Yeah, but this might embarrass me."
You saw
don't
that the
put people in prison because they don't have access to evidence that Michael Proctor doesn't want to share.
You saw that the head of all, public defenders for Massachusetts has sent letters to Morrissey and to the head of the MSP demanding that every single case that Michael Proctor has ever touched, that they get a list of every single, not just of open cases, but of cases of all defendants, like whether they've been convicted, acquitted, and that is their responsibility to provide that, right? Under
Yeah.
Brady and Giglio.
It doesn't surprise me in the least bit. I think I even tweeted something like this from an airplane last week was going to happen when this first broke, that every lawyer who has had a case with Michael Proctor has got to be considering so many different things. Certainly anyone who's convicted has to be considering post-conviction litigation about, I didn't have access to this important impeachment material. He was a key witness. Anyone who was acquitted or not, ultimately case was dismissed, or convicted and then later has another argument, should be contemplating 1983 actions against. And that's what this is the beginning of. I mean, this is, I forget what they call it. It's legal aid, what we call legal aid in New York. I don't know what they're called in Massachusetts, but yeah, they want to see it all, and they're going to dig and find God knows what. And of course, the only wrinkle there is not everyone will get out because Michael Proctor is a racist or not credible, and there's evidence that shouldn't have been disclosed. I mean, if he was involved in a case where there were 35 eyewitnesses and 22 videotaped confessions, any court's going to say, okay, you're right, they should have done this, but it's not material to the outcome of the case, so you don't get it. And this is what you've seen with Scarcella in Brooklyn over the last 13 years. Some convictions have not been reversed because courts have held that he was not that important to the verdict. But in any case in which Scarcella, arguably, his conduct could have contributed, to the verdict such that there's a reasonable possibility or probability, depending on the case, that the outcome might have been different if the defense had known, those cases have been dismissed. Murder convictions have been thrown out. In certain cases, the district attorney has agreed, not always, they're not really programmed to agree that much, but in certain cases they have. And I think this Proctor scandal will go on for 10 or 15 years because there's going to be hundreds of motions that are going to be filed in civil court, in criminal court. It's just never going to end.
It's 12 years of investigations that he's done, right? So if he became a trooper in 2012 until 2024, when he was, suspended after trial number 1 based on his messages That's 12 years worth of cases that this guy worked on. And remember also his message to somebody about, I can't believe that Massachusetts State Police hired me after Boston PD wouldn't.
That's a big component, I think, of Karen's current lawsuit against the state police, and that'll be a big component in all these upcoming lawsuits. And I mean, buckle up, because Michael Proctor, his conduct may very well bankrupt the state. I mean, there's only so many dollars to give out to people who got mistreated or were wrongfully incarcerated or whatever because of prosecutors' non-disclosure of his evidence. So, I mean, the amount of money that this is going to cost, and it's just, think of not even just the judgments and verdicts that could come out of this, the legal fees. I mean, the state lawyers who have to defend this crap, they
Special
need to,
prosecutors.
yeah, I mean, they need to eat too. Now, in all fairness, you probably can feed a lot of them McDonald's, but they still need to eat and get paid for their time. And it's going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of hours that it's all on the taxpayer dime. I mean, it's
going to be a whole other episode, Mark. It's going to be a whole other episode. Season 3 now turns out to be the civil cases, right? Season 4 is going to be when some other people start winding up in handcuffs. And do you think, based on the portion of whatever we read today, because I still have like 10 more pages to go through, do you think there could be, based on what we see here, potential criminal charges for Michael Proctor?
Too early.
Based on what we've read in this particular complaint by Rosemary Scapicchio.
Too early. I think what'll be interesting is what cases lead to investigations and in which these discussions were put into practice. If they were, then you could have, federal crimes, 18 USC 242, like federal civil rights criminal actions, things of that nature. Could there be down the line perjury charges? Maybe. But I think
like planting evidence. I mean, the guy, everyone who's sitting in prison right now because of Michael Proctor, who was convicted of possession of cocaine, right? Yeah. I mean, it's right there. I'll plant a bag of coke on him and tell him you're going in.
I mean, the planting evidence would be like the federal civil rights, because that would be obviously, unconstitutional behavior under color of law and all of that. I guess, though, you have to get real examples of evidence that he did it, not just said it. But of course, if they have some degree of evidence that he did it, these text messages become admissions against him in any case in which would be involved. So I would say it's too early to tell, but I mean, it looks terrible, and
most of them are undated. So who knows if that message, I want to shove a nightstick up his butt, plant a bag of coke on him, tell me you're going in. What if there was a guy right around that time who actually that exactly happened to? Forget the nightstick thing, because I can't imagine. Well, I mean, nothing should surprise me at this point if that really happened or not.
Nothing should surprise you. And again, the idea that this is just ordinary conversation on a Tuesday night. So how was your day? Well, I could have planted evidence on this guy and jammed a stick up his ass. But other than that, have you read any good books? I mean, it's very
just natural for him. It's just the way this is so normal.
It's habitual. I mean,
and it's, intrinsic.
Some people get accused of being a racist, and they make use poor judgment. They make an off-color remark, or they say something stupid, or, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't racist, but they take all the heat that goes with that. It's pretty rare when you see this kind of evidence of someone who is unquestionably, indisputably a rabid racist. I mean, you already forgot the messages from last week, but the one about, I went back to Canton, whatever school, and he's lamenting what's happened to this town. And then he came up with like a word, which is like deduced from the other word that he didn't use, but for children. And he's saying all these things about, let them die in a car accident. They're just black people. He doesn't use the word black, let them die. And you see all the stuff today. and you just sit there and say, what's next?
It's a case the first impression. I'm not sure if Krupp's going to be hearing this or Doolin, but because Doolin is the one who unsealed it, it makes me think it's going back to Doolin. That other issue that you guys are talking about with Judge Krupp, that had to do with the sequestration order, because Judge Krupp was the one who held the evidentiary hearing in which Lally testified. And so they were looking to release them from the sequestration order for that. And that's why he said that has to go back to Krupp. I think Doolin's the one who's going to be hearing this. I am going to predict now the over-under on this is that Krupp may just throw this out on papers because he doesn't want to deal with this trial. This is going to open up the Pandora's box, like the million snakes in the can that are going to start coming out with every single criminal defendant who's in prison.
I can tell you this, in doing research on, motions for dismissal because of egregious government misconduct, and it's actually cited in the memo of law that we submitted, which feels like 4 years ago already, but it's like last year. Krupp has dismissed a case on this basis before.
Oh.
Not because of, a racist or biased investigator, but he has, while sitting as a trial court level judge, dismissed an indictment based on improper government conduct.
That's interesting. Your mega motion. So your mega motion, which it feels like it's been a million years. My sympathies about Lola, by the way. I cried.
Winnie. Yeah, Winnie. Lola's
I'm sorry, Winnie. I'm sorry, Winnie. Lola, the good dog, is still.
Lola's still.
But I'm sorry about that. And when is the date for the mega motion?
I think it's July 20th. It's 19th or 20th. I get it.
I'm sure I have it in my calendar too.
It is. Oh God, I should be able to like spit this out, right? It is
I have it the 20th. July. It's a Monday. July 20th.
July 9 a.m. Still in the big city, not Dedham.
And that is, and Cosgrove is still on the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the trial is supposed to happen in December.
Yes.
December, right? So if the motion to dismiss is not granted and then it has to go to trial in December, that'll be after the election of Norfolk County DA, but not before the sitting, because I guess the next district attorney would be sworn in January. Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Like January 1, is that when they do that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
commenting. See what happens.
You're right. Like timeline wise, it is after the election, but before the new DA. That's correct.
Yeah, maybe you got to adjourn it into next year. I don't know. You're just not available. Maybe Michael Proctor will have another emergency or something. Just won't be there. I love how you're so, but
I mean,
don't play poker, Mark.
It's funny because, that like the one thing that like sucks is a summer trial, right? It's hot, wearing the suits, walking around. And then you realize the only thing that's worse than a summer trial is a dead winter trial in a place like Massachusetts.
Downtown.
Yeah, where I think the trial has to be it's got to be Norfolk jurors. So I think the trial.
I mean, you'd be paying $60 a day to park, right, in Suffolk County or wherever he is in Suffolk County, right? Yeah, $60 a day to park. No, they're not going to bust Norfolk County jurors into the city, right?
No, I think it'll be in Dedham. And it's not like they're not used to like the circus, right? I mean, the circus has come to town there on many, many occasions.
Buffer zones, overtime. They know how to do it there. They know how to run that circus. How about those Knicks, huh?
I don't even know what to say.
It's wild.
I probably watched 3 minutes of the finals. I can't stand walking around the city. There are too many brand new Knicks hats, like real crisp, brand new. And, there's obviously a lot of real Knicks fans, but it is
Stevie Nicks, Nickelback.
Oh, that was awful.
Celebrity Row. It's a thing. It's a real thing.
The Taylor Swift thing's run its course she's getting married.
I don't think she's really getting married there. I don't think. I think that's fake. Fake news.
The Knicks, they're on an all-time heater. I've never seen anything like it. The way they and even the other night, so I had to go to an arraignment yesterday in the Bronx and surrender a client who's an NYPD officer to turn himself in the house at like 7 in the morning. So I had to get up real early, leave real early, take a car real early. Point being, I went to bed pretty early the night before, and some son was watching the game, and I kind of peeked over right before I went to bed, and it was around halftime, maybe I don't even remember, but the Knicks were losing by like 25 points, and I said, "All right, it's going to be 2-2. San Antonio's going to have home court again. All right, maybe there's hope for this." And you wake up in the morning and like check the phone. I'm like, let me check the score and make sure. And I couldn't believe it.
It was crazy. I was in Forest Hills, with my boyfriend Dave Matthews at his concert. We're at the old tennis stadium, which is a great concert venue if you're into that kind of thing. And they have a hard stop there because it's a residential neighborhood, so they have to be done by 10. And so he ended at 9:30, and we got to watch the second half of the game, like at a restaurant, and it was wild. It was wild. And I was taking an Uber back, and I was like, I gotta hit the Uber button before the end of the Knicks game, because otherwise the surge pricing is going to be tripled. And it all worked out, and they won, and it was wild. It was crazy.
Yeah, I hate. I mean, look, for the fans, there's a lot of craziness going on with like debauchery in the city, and New York really should be better than that. It's not, clearly, but it should be beating up people in the middle of the street for celebrating
a basketball fan.
The coolest thing that I have seen, I will acknowledge. Have you been by Penn Station and MSG since the finals have started?
Oh, no, I'm not going there. I wouldn't even get on the train to come back home because the people from Penn Station were going to be stopping at Forest Hills. And I was like, I'm not getting involved in that.
It is cool how they painted the subway near MSG, the exit blue and orange. It is pretty cool.
The buildings are not just the Empire State Building, but a lot of buildings are blue and orange, right? Yeah, blue and orange.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Any final thoughts before I let you go and go on to read the last 10 of these pages?
No, it's this whole like orbit of cases in Norfolk County in the last couple of years that, you've been following and I deal with or follow it. They just get more peculiar and bizarre by the day. And I have a feeling there's like 10 different pivots still left to go.
Just like when you think you have seen it all and heard it all, it's and you don't think it can get any worse. It is so much worse than David Yannetti even knew when he did his opening in trial number 1, which we watched a little bit of before, because I remember my jaw hitting the floor. When he started talking about Proctor's text, I was like,
can you imagine that case being tried in 2024 if Karen's lawyers had access to any of this?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what the real interesting question is this? It's not so much, we know what the outcome would be. It would have been a joke, but would that have been enough to make this DA white flag the case? The ARCA stuff wasn't. The early messages that people saw weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Would all this racism and planting evidence and all this, would that have done it? Because they argued that he planted evidence and was corrupt and biased and all this without knowing any of what you've seen in the last couple of weeks. And all that you've seen in the last couple of weeks is proof that Karen and her lawyers were right.
Right. And every single time I read another filing in the defamation case, and I know you can't talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it because it takes me 4 hours to get through it, because I am watching with the chat and all the cupcakes every single footnote that they have attached to those filings. And let me tell you something, in my opinion, 90% of them help your client and Karen Reed. The Julie Grant stuff that we watched the other day and it was before Julie Grant turned over to the dark side and drank the green Kool-Aid, as we're calling it. She was like, Karen Reed was framed. And it's wild, the fact that they didn't timestamp anything. Many of those links are now dead because somebody out there who hates Aiden has started a campaign to get everybody to report these videos, to have YouTube taking them down. And now all the links are dead and all of their evidence is disappearing. And it's like a real-time crash out. And I couldn't love it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, I assume
for them. I mean, hypothetically.
it, but that issue of disappearing hyperlinks is being dealt with
Oh,
from the court side. But
oh,
I mean, look, and this doesn't. Well,
that's not your fault because you didn't hyperlink them. This is their evidence.
I'm not taking any position for purposes of this. I'm saying that everything you talk about is dealt with. Doesn't just apply to the defamation case. It really just applies to anything. The problem with all the civil litigation, a big problem, not the problem, but a big problem is going to be, a month ago, there were all these allegations that are central to the positions that are adverse to the McCabe's and Alberts and Higgins and O'Keefe's and whatever permutation of that group is suing or being sued, whatever. That Proctor was bad and that he and others had to have planted evidence. And the problem that litigants will have is now that you see more and more is coming out about Proctor, people are going to ask, is he more or less likely now in your mind to have it in him to plant taillight or falsify evidence or do this? And there is not one single person, literally not one, which is zero, who I think would say that this makes him less likely to do that as opposed to more. And it's a big deal.
Will he go down in history better or worse than Mark Furman?
Oh, 1,000 times worse.
Wow.
So Mark Furman,
surprised.
who I know just died a couple of weeks ago, Mark Furman's mistake was not owning what he did. So, he gave those interviews, whatever. He said words that he shouldn't have said. And in all fairness, it's before text messages. So would he have been worse in the modern era? I don't know. But if Mark Furman had said,
crazy, right?
I screwed up and I shouldn't have done that and da 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 da. By all accounts, before that, Mark Furman was a pretty decorated detective. There's no actual evidence in the OJ case that he planted evidence. I mean, there are allegations, and he obviously took the heat. I mean, they lost the case because of Mark Furman, clearly, obviously, all that stuff. But in his post OJ life, he had value, if that makes sense. I don't know if rehabilitated himself is the right word, but he did some good things. I forget exactly what he got involved in. He did comment on cases, and he was kind of accepted back by certain segments. And my recollection is he said the N-word like several times. I don't think, and I mean, I hate to compare.
90s?
Yeah.
In the 90s, right?
Right. But I mean, it was offensive then as it is now, but I don't recall him saying anything remotely like what Proctor said. I don't recall them being credible evidence that his testimony was false in the sense of how it affected his investigation. You have the timing of the vehicle that they took in Dighton that was a mistake, finding taillight over the course of 3 weeks, not taking a photo of the vehicle, the Sally Port inversion, which was in his back pocket for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff is a lot worse than like anything Furman did as it relates to the case. And with Michael Proctor, he's irredeemable. I mean, how do you defend anything he did? How do you even consult a PR person and say, fix me? What do you say? I'm sorry. He already tried that.
Well, his sympathizers say, I mean, yes, all of these things are terrible, but what does that have to do with him framing Karen Reed?
A lot.
Or what does that have to
Everything.
Please explain to them.
Are you people dumb or obtuse or just intellectually dishonest? If the man is biased and he treats women, you forget women. There's so many different classes of people that he allegedly, well, not allegedly, that he talks about in a disparaging way. He's a misogynist too. I mean, let's not forget his,
how to do it kit to sexually assault a girlfriend when she doesn't want you to do a certain thing to her. I mean,
Yeah. Wait till
he
she's asleep.
right. Well, you can wait till she's asleep. You can attempt to ply her with alcohol and just till she passes out. When all else fails, roofies. So, sir, those are crimes that you're suggesting. I mean, you don't need a criminal lawyer to tell you what consent is and what it means to be incapable of giving consent when somebody is knocked out or unconscious or asleep. So he's 1,000 times worse than Mark Furman.
Well, he's going to make history.
By the way, that's not a defense of Mark Furman, but
no,
Proctor is.
But up until now, Mark Furman was the poster child for bad cop, right? And a guy that got off on a murder that he committed because of Mark, but because of him, right? And now here comes Proctor.
It is true that, I mean, one of the running jokes about the OJ verdict was, men have been executed on much less evidence than was presented against OJ Simpson, who assuredly was guilty. I mean, that was, the irony was years later, OJ got sent away for this ticky-tack nothing, which felt like improper payback for but that's
right.
But I don't know that Mark Furman ever, after OJ, had other cases come and bite him in the rear end and get people out. Like, I don't think he became a continuing scandal. I don't think his body of work was ever exposed as he's bad that way, as opposed to Proctor it's going to happen again and again and again.
Yeah, I think so. All right, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me. It's been a long time.
It is. Before I go, because we often talk about TV, if you have a few minutes.
Oh, yeah.
The Testaments.
You didn't like it?
No. Did you?
Did you watch The Handmaid's Tale?
We've talked about this.
Okay. So you watched The Handmaid's Tale. I'm trying to remember how it ended now because I watched the finale a while ago. I like the young actors in it, and I like that it's a mostly all women cast, which you rarely see. So I think that the acting by the younger women in that is so amazing. The storyline, not the greatest, but it's based on a book.
I know, but it just felt not the same. And then, so I am and next show, and then I'm out of here.
No, go ahead.
I am struggling, and I maybe I'll just have to start over and pay attention. I really, really, really want to like Widow's Bay.
And I can't get past the first episode.
I'm on like episode 6 or 7. And you know how I'm always saying I love sophisticated, well-written TV. And I feel like this ought to be that. And I am just struggling to understand it, to like it. I like the cast. It's basically like Martha's Vineyard, essentially.
I know.
I'm struggling, and I find myself staring at my phone, looking over here, and I don't know.
I couldn't get through episode 1. Yeah. I just finished Your Friends and Neighbors. Are you watching Your Friends and Neighbors? They're filming season 3 right now.
Well, that's unfortunate. Season 1 was really good. Yeah. I don't understand what the point of season 2, and I don't understand what John Hamm is doing. You're too good for this. The concept is great in the first season. Like the idea of some rich guy who's like breaking into his rich friends' homes and whatever. Yeah. But that feels like a 1-season premise, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah.
To try to like make a soapy drama off of that with what's going on in, the neighborhood, which I assume is to be. I mean, what is that supposed to be? What?
Well, it's filmed in Rye, but I think it's supposed to be Long Island.
Yeah, is it supposed to be? Yeah, I mean, it feels like Pound Ridge and like New Canaan and like
they're filming it in Rye, but I think it's supposed to be Long Island, and then they go out to the Hamptons in one of the episodes, but it's not filmed there.
I'm almost through season 2. I'm not feeling it, and I'm season 3.
Wait till you get to the finale. At least watch the end, the last season finale, and then we have to talk about it because I'm like, what just happened? I still don't know what happened.
Yeah, I was told to get into this other show on Amazon that was called like Pretty Little Liars or The Liars Club or something. Awful.
Pretty Little Liars is old. That's like Gossip Girl. That's like Young Girl. Like, I don't think that's what it is. I think maybe something else.
I don't know. It felt kind of like young and stupid. I don't know.
Everyone in my family is watching Love Island. They're fighting over Peacock. They're like, how many people can be on Peacock at once? Don't tell me you're all watching Love Island. I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
No, I don't watch that. I'm waiting. I mean, look, I'm waiting for like where give me Severance back. Give me Slow Horses back. You know, give me another Pluribus. It's been kind of a bad
Pluribus
run.
is good.
Yeah, I love Pluribus.
Is it Big Little? It's not Big Little Lies that you're watching, is it? Nicole Kidman, and that's Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon.
That one I watched both seasons because I like.
Did you watch 9 Perfect Strangers? That was I liked that one a lot.
I watched. I like Nicole Kidman. I watch most things that Nicole Kidman is in, even if I don't really like the show. The Big Little Lies, though, the problem with that, and this is the problem with being a lawyer, this is you get too analytical and you have to check yourself and say, it's TV, dummy, just go with it.
Oh, yeah. Margot's got money problems with Nicole Kidman as the lawyer. That's.
Oh, but do you remember at the end of the first season of what's it called? Big Little Lies, the Nicole Kidman and Laura Dern and Reese Witherspoon.
Yep.
And they had this with like the awful husband, you know, the abusive husband, and the one woman, I forget her name, comes and as something's happening, you know, gives the show.
Yeah, Zoe Kravitz, right?
And, right. And they're all freaking out, and the cops are all ready to arrest him or arrest them, and they're freaking out. Ladies, like we talk about self-defense and justification all the time. That was a quintessential justification. Never would happen in real life, but
We Were Liars. Somebody says, is that the one you're watching? We Were Liars? I don't know what that is.
Awful. I aborted after like 3 episodes. I couldn't.
You quit. Did you watch The Madison?
No.
Michelle Pfeiffer. And what's the new spinoff of Yellowstone? Dutton Ranch? Are you watching that?
You know what? I watched Yellowstone, but I'm done. I can't have 6 spinoffs. I'm done.
I know.
Too far behind. I don't have like that much time, so I'm trying to be selective. That's why I get pissed when I start watching these shows and I don't like them.
Hey, well, then you got to just jump ship sometimes. You can't continue. You have to your time is valuable.
Usually,
but there's nothing really out right now that I went to the movie theater with my kids to see Backrooms. I liked it.
There is nothing. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, the Red Sox suck. So, I mean, to me, that's not like background noise. That's on the iPad on the side.
Mm-hmm.
There's no basketball. I'm sorry, but like, you know, we lost that interest. So, you know, there's no real sports to watch. I need a good show, and there haven't been any in a long time.
I know. Well, when you find one, let me know, and then we'll watch it, and then we'll debrief on it.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much for joining. We love you. I love you. We'll have to get together for a real Little Italy lunch soon.
Definitely.
All right.
Season gets nicer. See ya.
I know. Yeah. It's hot.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, wasn't that fun? Wasn't that fun? All right, let's get to the chat. Do you guys want to read the rest of this motion? Because there's about, I mean, it's more of the same, but there's about, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 more pages. Let me know if you're into it. Let's just get to the super chats because I didn't want to take up Mark's time reading super chats. I did scan through them to see if there were any questions that he could answer for us while he was here. So thanks you guys for hanging out. I just wanted to get him while I knew he was available. And here we go. I put up a bunch of them in the meantime. Kelly, thanks for your 5. Said the victim's family must be devastated. Yes, Marquise Simmons' family, 100%. They've waited all this time, and outcome is likely going to be based on misconduct than potential guilt. Yeah, I don't know what the judge is going to do with this, but what do you guys think about Judge Doolin? I don't know. If anybody was to decide a case of first impression, it may be Judge Doolin, and they may be too embarrassed, I think, to try this case. Hostas Jess says, please have Mr. Tom Kokanowski on to discuss this with you. We've been trying to put together a show. I don't know if he's here tonight, but he's got a lot. He started a YouTube channel, and I don't know if he's posted anything yet. I think I did see he had a playlist of Brian Camp stuff, and then I think he did post one video. So he's like, please, can I come on? And I'm like, of course you can. Of course you can come on whenever you want. What do you want to talk about? He's got some funny stories, so we are putting it together. Thank you for your 5, Hospice Jess. JDT Character Girl says, I can't help thinking that John will keep pushed back on this behavior. Hence the Haas mob removing his officer ranks when they named him. He clearly didn't fit in. Thank you for tuning in from down under. On top, thanks for your 20. Says, I'm spending Swiss Mrs. courting money to up the rates around here. Oh, thank you very much. You're out doing the $1.99 trolls and putting in $20. Thank you. Gordy's mom says, I'll sleep better tonight knowing that deleted emails are in fact being recovered. Jen, JM will have shiny new bracelets. Thanks, Gordy's mom, for your 10. Ms. Jules from Florida, thank you. Thank you so much. Says, Melanie, you're doing so well with this. Respect for you and your vast knowledge of law, girl. Oh, thank you for your 20. Ms. Jules from Florida. Iceman says, Mel, I tuned in just to hear my favorite saying from you about the car not hitting John O'Keefe. Thank you very, 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 very much. You heard it then? John O'Keefe was not hit by a car and a car did not hit John O'Keefe. You're welcome. On top says, Melanie will always be queen by law. Thank you. Joey 3 Sticks, Proc the Troopa. Love you too. Thank you very much. Charlie says, Edric Foss must be sitting in his cell thinking, really? This crap in 2026? Listen, Edric Foss had a hearing today on his request for a new trial. I called the court this morning and they're like, yeah, no, we don't have Zoom and you have to come in person. And no media has filed any sort of order to come in. So it's not going to be televised. So I don't know what happened, but I'm going to try and find out and let you guys know. Paul Ward says, how can they hold the quiet? Turtle Boy was right against him. The quote, you mean when it came from a chant outside the courthouse after the Karen Reed verdict? Oh, that's a great point. Thanks, Paul. We have to still get back to part 2 of the Haas defendant's amended complaint, which I have for you, probably for our next show over the weekend. Burp Snarts says, thanks so much for shedding a light on all this corruption. Unfortunately, it happens everywhere. Voices like yours are so important. It could be any of us. Turtle Boy was right. Thank you. Marty says, what does it say about Krupp in the hearing? Krupp was the one who presided over the evidentiary hearing in which Lally testified. The motion is to let them out of their sequestration order. And so he said that motion was going to have to go to Judge Krupp, but I think that this motion is going to stay with Doolin. I could be wrong. That's just that's my gut. New Jersey Kathy says, as a former Fed, our electronics are constantly under surveillance. I do not understand how the MSP, as a law enforcement agency, is not monitoring these devices and using their private electronic devices for official business. I don't either. AVAM, Kevin Foley is a licensed social worker for growth therapy. Well, there's a million Kevin Foleys out there. Somebody said he was with Canton PD. So I don't know who's right and who's not, and I don't like to spread misinformation. No nudes so far. Gifted 5 memberships. Well done with the username. Thank you. My dog named Bing says, keep shining the light. We're trying. Jen in Stitches from Norway says, I think John was going to squeal about them all, and that's what got him killed. They were silencing the good cop. No Name Nancy says, please tell Rosemary that the Milton cop that Proctor worked with on Myles King case was Mark C. Okay, that guy, Mark C., whose name I probably butchered, is Sean Good's brother-in-law. Really? Oh, so he's married to a woman with that middle name? Oh, and that's his brother-in-law? Oh, well, I don't have a direct line to Rosemary, but I'm sure you could find her. I don't know, somewhere. I think she's on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, I think you can tag her. We know she's on Twitter because she posted that thing about it being BS that she never investigated or never represented Kevin Albert. Sherry says, is Judge Cannoni implicated? She obviously was working to keep evidence suppressed. So far, no. I haven't seen anything. Charissa, thanks for gifting 5 memberships. You're awesome. Nicole says, what are the repercussions for not adhering to the depot schedule they give to the judge? I guess we're going to see. It's going to remain to be seen. That's a different case. This one is Myles King. That's Karen Reed. The wrongful death case, O'Keefe versus Reed. It's not, the judge wants to know when the depositions are and when they're going to be so that he can keep track of whether or not they happen. And he'll know when he's at a hearing. He doesn't have to ask them, oh, who do you have on June 24th? Who do you have on June 25th? He's going to have a list and he's going to know. And he's micromanaging it because he's tired of what's going on. Some guy with cancer, again, I'm sorry about your cancer. All this because Michael Marcy wouldn't let the Karen Reed case go. That's right. Bridget says the trolls that come in here to pay money to give Melanie crap is just money in the bank for Melanie Little to go to Cancun to see Dave Matthews. Thank you. I will. Comer K says, didn't Lang's police report say that John looked like he was beaten up? I don't remember if it was in the police report or if it is something that was told to someone. But Anybody in the chat who knows that for sure, just tag Comer, Comerk. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there are people who know this case like with photographic memories. Craftastical, my two favorite emotional support lawyers, Mr. B and Mel. Thanks for guiding us through all this hateful talk. Michelle says, I hope Melanie can use her skills and deep dive into this. I guarantee every single one of them use, but I'm a Christian as a cover. I don't know what you're talking about. Deep dive into this Myles King case, Karen Reed case. I've been doing this. I've been screaming about Karen Reed for 2.5 years now, and everything Norfolk County and in turn, everything Massachusetts, because that's where, that's what my audience seems to be most interested in. Big Dog says, can we start the rumor that Taylor Swift is getting married on your yacht, Melanie? Oh, yes, of course we can. Yacht today, Satan. Grant Smith Ellis is going to be in possession of an I Went to Cancun with attorney Melanie little sweatshirt because of course he should. He's the one who started it. We're like Afro Man over here. We make merch when people troll us. And Grant Smith Ellis has turned the corner and switched sides. And I love that journey for him. We've seen that journey happen. Thank you, Hugh. I can't pronounce that, but I love you guys. I love you right back. Thank you for tuning in from across the pond. Florence Not Nightingale. The planting of cocoa text would also imply Proctor. Planting of cocoa text would also imply Proctor had access to a bag of it. Saying that. Oh, Proctor saying, yeah, I want to plant a bag of coke on him. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Florence Not Nightingale. You going to Vegas? Casey Paralegal's going to Vegas from Denver for the Golden Knights game, which is tomorrow. Right? Is it tomorrow or is it Sunday? I think it's not until Sunday, right? All right. Enjoy. Let's go Vegas. Nice, man. FYL, Mel Online Athens has an article online about the hearing today for Foss, just so you know. Thank you. I'll take a look for that later. We are the lucky ones. Says, when will Proctor's phone records be released for Turtle Boys cases? I don't think they have them yet. As far as I don't know if they have them or not. But I do remember that Aiden's been saying for a long time that we would be so blown away by things that were in the text messages regarding Jennifer McCabe, I think on the day of Karen's arraignment, right? Am I conflating things now? I mean, that's totally could be, right? Oh, you like my necklace, Linda? It's in my Amazon list. It's like $18.99. I love it too. You know what I love about it? I love a dupe that looks like it's real. So this is in my Amazon list, which you can find under, it's my Amazon storefront, where you can also get your amazing whipped beef tallow cream. Vanilla orange is my favorite flavor. It's in the Amazon storefront that is linked in the show notes below this video. Let's go back to the papers because you guys want to read them and we're here for it. So we can't leave it half done. Can't leave it half done. And we are on page 22. In any event, Myles King has suffered actual prejudice. Even if this court were to require King to demonstrate prejudice, he has shown it. The due framework recognizes the futility of asking a defendant to reconstruct the precise harm caused by deep-seated racial animus. But the record here also affirmatively demonstrates that Proctor's racism shaped the investigation in concrete, identifiable ways. Proctor's racist views infected the investigation's most basic credibility judgments. After reviewing these messages and pictures and coming to understand the full extent of Proctor's hatred of Black and brown people, statements and omissions made by Proctor in King's case, a Black man's case, now take on a more sinister meaning. Counsel can argue, after reviewing Proctor's personal phone, that if Proctor was given conflicting statements by a white person and a Black person, his racism would cause him to disbelieve the Black person every time. For example, in this case, she has examples because of course she does. Patrol Officer Henry T. Colligan told Proctor that he asked Simmons who shot him and that Simmons responded, Mizzy Cash. Yet Finesse Carter and Michael Turner, the two witnesses who are noted to have been with the victim in close proximity, rendering aid, footnote 4, which we'll get to in a second, did not hear this conversation. Oh, really? And it appears from the discovery that they were not asked about this conversation. Wow. Oh, how interesting is that? Okay, I'm going to guess Patrol Officer Henry Colligan, who heard I hit him. Oh, no. He didn't hear that. He heard the confession of Mizzy Cash shot me is white, and that Finesse Carter and Michael Turner are black, and they didn't hear Marquise Simmons say that. And so it appears from the discovery that they were not asked about this conversation. In other words, Proctor credited the white officer without even attempting to corroborate or refute that statement using the observations of two black witnesses. Wow. That's like writing down, yes, it's giving, I hit him. I'm like, exactly. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Wow. Just wow. Even though it was so much more egregious in Karen Reed's case, because Jennifer McCabe never said she heard I hit him until she was at her trial testimony. And Kerry Roberts saying that, oh, I heard Karen Reed tell Jen McCabe to Google hypothermia. Lying by saying that to the grand jury. And then, of course, when cross-examined about it at trial number 2, said, oh, well, I didn't really hear her say that. I just knew that it happened. That's really explosive information. Really explosive information. That, the dying declaration of Marquise Simmons, the victim in this case, was heard only by the white cop and not the two black people who were rendering aid. Footnote number 4 says, according to emails between Proctor and ADA Lally, Michael Turner was photographed kneeling next to the victim and rendering aid. They didn't hear this deathbed, dying declaration of who shot him. Wow. While that example is obvious from the circumstances, it is impossible to determine whether there were others, whether Proctor's biases caused him to fail to pursue other leads or avenues of investigation that are now lost and undocumented. Yeah, like ring camera footage from the neighborhood at 34 Fairview, which was never even asked for. King has clearly suffered prejudice at the hands of a lead investigator who thought that King and everyone who looked like him was less than human. Every decision Proctor made was filtered through that animus. Moreover, the Commonwealth has informed King that it does not plan to call Proctor at trial. If King calls Proctor, Proctor may invoke the Fifth Amendment. Of course. There it is. Footnote 5. King is not admitting or denying that Proctor has a Fifth Amendment claim. Even if Proctor does not invoke the Fifth, the Commonwealth's decision not to call Proctor would shield Proctor from cross-examination, as he would need to be called by King, right? And so he would have to be called as a direct witness. He wouldn't be able to be cross-examined in that fashion. He would have to be called as, a friendly witness, no leading, etc. The impact would not be the same. Where King is denied a fair trial because of the overt racism of the lead investigator, resistance to relief for King would severely undermine the integrity of the criminal legal system. As the SJC recently recognized, this must be a time not just of reflection, but of action. And that is quoted from a letter from the 7 justices of the SJC to members of the judiciary and the bar from June of 2020. An institution cannot be recommitted to the systemic changes needed to make equality under the law an enduring reality for all, and at the same time hold that an investigator who dehumanizes Black persons and every other non-white race and non-Christian religion can adequately and impartially investigate a case with a Black defendant. The Commonwealth's election not to call Proctor as a witness compounds the prejudice and converts a fact witness problem into a structural one. The Commonwealth proposes to introduce the fruits of Proctor's racist investigation, his warrants, the witness statements he took, the evidence he collected, the photo arrays he assembled through other witnesses who relied on Proctor's work while keeping Proctor himself off the stand. That's what they did in trial 2. They used Buchanan as a replacement for Proctor. Yeah, I'm aware of the hostile witness rule and all of that stuff. I just, this is just a surface level reading of it. I know, but he's not going to testify to everything because he's going to have to plead the Fifth. And they shouldn't have to do that. That's the point. The result is that the Commonwealth gets the benefit of Proctor's biased investigation without ever exposing Proctor to cross-examination by King. Yep. And Rosemary has been screaming for how many months now? Why are you protecting him? Why are we protecting him? Why is anyone protecting him? He's a racist, misogynistic pig, and he doesn't deserve protection by anyone. That's what Rosemary said. I love you too, Kay Walker. Thank you. That is precisely the kind of structural manipulation of witness availability that violates due process. I just pulled some witness availability stuff in the Karen Reed civil trial. And Judge Gilday said, oh, I don't buy your excuse. I don't believe your expert witness. You didn't even include a CV, and that's not a good enough excuse. And so you have to come for your deposition tomorrow. And then Ellen Jackson and Damon Seligman said, sorry, we're not available tomorrow. So that's got pushed until end of June and then maybe mid-July. And we don't know where he is or what he's doing or why he can't show up. If King is forced to call Proctor in order to expose his bias and Proctor invokes the Fifth Amendment, the Commonwealth will have effectively immunized its own racist lead investigator from any meaningful cross-examination, an outcome that confronts King with an impossible choice between forging impeachment of the investigation and putting on a witness who will assert privilege. The same thing happened in Karen Reed trial too. Same thing. Imagine, like Mark said, like I said too, imagine if Karen Reed's team had all this stuff on Proctor. Wow. Either way, the right to meaningful confrontation guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment and Article 12 is hollowed out. Thus, King has suffered irreparable harm, as he will never be able to paint a full picture for the jury about just how racist and how biased the lead investigator of this case was. Roman 3, dismissal is warranted, even absent prejudice, to create a climate adverse to repetition. Even if this court were to find that King has not established prejudice, this court can still dismiss the indictments because Proctor's conduct was egregious, and dismissing King's case would create a climate adverse to repetition. Dismissal with prejudice is a remedy of last resort. Dismissal can occur where there is egregious government misconduct in failing to disclose evidence, the defendant is prejudiced by the late disclosure, and the defendant can show irremediable harm to the defendant's ability to obtain a fair trial. Under a second principle, when prosecutorial misconduct is egregious, deliberate, and intentional, or results in a violation of constitutional rights, it may give rise to presumptive prejudice. The only reason to dismiss criminal charges because of non-prejudicial but egregious police misconduct would be to create a climate adverse to repetition of that misconduct that would not otherwise exist. The texts on Proctor's phone are vile, and Proctor was not the only police officer participating in the WhatsApp group messaging. Oh, there's more? Even now, the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office continues to protect Proctor and the horrible messages on his phone. That's right, we've seen it. The Commonwealth has had access to the texts since at least July of 2025 and has failed to take any steps to dismiss the case against King. The message currently being sent is that it is acceptable to be a police officer and to hold beliefs that Black people are animals responsible for all crime, and that the Commonwealth will protect people who hold those beliefs, shield them from accountability by refusing to call them as a witness, and seek protection orders to further shield their racism from the public. This court has the power to dismiss the case against King and to send a message that the courts do not tolerate officers that participate in any criminal investigation where the officer believes that Black people are less than human and that Black people always commit crimes and should be killed and enslaved. King requests that this court dismiss the indictments with prejudice because Proctor's conduct was egregious, and dismissing King's case would create a climate adverse to repetition. Another good argument. Whether or not Doolin is going to bite is another issue. Hold on. King is entitled to an evidentiary, this is Roman 4. King is entitled to an evidentiary hearing under the Equal Protection Clause in Articles 1 and 10. The Equal Protection Principles of the 14th Amendment prohibit discriminatory application of impartial laws. While some selectivity or discretion must be tolerated in criminal law enforcement, that selectivity is permissible only so long as it is not based on an unjustifiable standard, such as race, religion, or other arbitrary classification. Selective enforcement occurs when there is discriminatory policing in the investigatory phase of the case. Well, Karen Reed could have argued this too. If she'd only have known. To succeed on a selective enforcement claim, the defendant first has the burden of establishing by motion a reasonable inference that the officer's decision was motivated by race or another protected class. Race, religion, sexual orientation, sex. The defendant must produce evidence from which a reasonable person could infer that the officer discriminated on the basis of the defendant's race. Well, I think the totality of these text messages just might do it. The courts have found that discriminatory motivation exists when the challenged enforcement decision was motivated at least in part by race. To establish this, the defendant must point to specific facts from the totality of the circumstances. If that inference is established, the defendant is entitled to a hearing where the Commonwealth has the burden of rebutting the inference. If the Commonwealth is not able to rebut the racist inference, the evidence derived from the selective enforcement is suppressed. Here, King has established not just an inference of a racist motivation by Proctor, he has included texts and photographs from Proctor's phone in this very motion that should lead a reasonable person to infer that Proctor's enforcement decisions, almost always motivated at least in part by race, are almost always motivated at least in part by race. Karen Reed is not Jewish. No, she is actually very Catholic. In fact, she used to go to church on Sundays with John O'Keefe's dad. So that is not true. Proctor's beliefs on race can be summed up in his own text messages. Well, I'm going to take them down again because YouTube doesn't like them. But I'll read them to you just the same. You're reasonable people. Tell me what you think. Here's his own text messages. You see a blank, just kill it. The blank is the N-word. You see a blank, just kill it. It should be punch a blank day in Canton today out of retribution. Any shine you see, blasted in the face. Detroit should be destroyed along with places like Flint, Michigan. They are breeding grounds for blanks to run wild. I was planning on tying a blank up and dragging him from my bumper through the streets of Randolph. Eat a D, Ghana. Let's enslave those blanks. My car needs a cleaning. Oh, great. Now the blanks have a straight pipeline to Canton. I mean, I love to know the text messages around these comments because that would be probably even more chilling than what I want to see the whole thread. Now I need to see the whole thread. So dehumanizing, unreal, horrific. All right. So what do you mean? Ahmad Cruz is not on Edric Foss's case anymore? I didn't hear that. I did not hear that. And there was a cupcake in court today. Unless there was a filing after, but I wanted to stick on this topic right now because I really need to get through these papers because my voice is going. Or the text that Proctor received. Hashtag die blank day. I hate blanks. Captain Foley. Bear, Proctor, go get this blank and string him up. What kind of a-holes stabbed 2 park rangers? They just want to protect the trees. That was Trendy who sent that one. Rocket blank. A blank attached to a rocket who flies around stealing stuff like cars, basketballs, fried chicken, and people's legs. Blanks will riot no matter what the outcome is, to which Proctor responded, whatever the course of action is, these blanks will riot. These messages come from a person who, at the time of King's case, had sworn to serve and protect his community and faithfully execute the laws of the Commonwealth. Footnote 6, which reads, Proctor was fired from his job as a state trooper based on misogynistic texts sent in the Commonwealth versus Reed case. While the typical remedy in a long hearing for discriminatory enforcement is suppression, here with Proctor's egregious racism, the remedy should be dismissal. This is not a case of statistical data showing potential bias in car stops. What King has shown the court is racism from Proctor that cannot be disputed and did not change over time. And therefore, a hearing is required. They're saying, number one, give us a hearing, or just dismiss the case outright. Because it is that unfair and that egregious and that it shocks the conscience of a reasonable person so much that there's no other remedy here. You should dismiss it, but if you're not going to dismiss it, then give us an evidentiary hearing. And then based on what you hear at the evidentiary hearing, then dismiss it. How long have I been live for? Almost 3.5 hours. Welcome, M. Welcome, M. We missed you. For the Commonwealth to oppose and for this court to deny an evidentiary hearing on these facts would further shield Proctor from accountability for his egregious misconduct, compounding the very harm this motion seeks to remedy. It's interesting here that she doesn't bring up at all that there was an evidentiary hearing that was abandoned, that Lally was testifying, and it was stricken, and then they never resumed it, and Proctor was also supposed to testify, but he was on vacation. And then I think he came in another day with his lawyer. Maybe that was the day with his sunglasses on. I don't remember exactly. Hold on. But it never continued. I don't know. Something just happened. Hold on. I don't know. There's a problem with the system. Can you guys still hear me? What's going on? Is it a Google issue? What is happening here? Okay. Why would it just sign me out? All right, hold on. Hold, please. It's always something. King's motion should be allowed on basic principles of fairness. Okay, thank you. Although there appear to be no reported cases addressing whether a defendant's due process rights were violated as a result of a racially biased lead investigator. Oh, there's going to be a lot more of them now. Courts have found the process violations on grounds of judicial bias. Judicial bias, right? Judicial bias. We heard about a defense attorney's bias. And so judicial bias, racism has also been linked to or has been the sole basis for the finding of due process violations. Here's a bunch of other cases. For this court to acknowledge the profound impropriety created by Proctor's investigation of King would be no more than recognizing that this case offends those canons of decency and fairness which express the notions of justice of English-speaking peoples, even toward those charged with the most heinous offenses. Team Aminol says, I say hold please to my dogs all the time. Now, you know why I do that? You know what the lore is behind that? The lore is that I didn't know what misophonia was until I had a YouTube channel. And misophonia, there are people that cannot stand the sounds of certain things. Like if I say Laura McLaughlin's name the way I like to say it, they get really triggered. And if I swallow into the microphone, they get really triggered. So I didn't know it. So now I know. And so now every time I want to take a sip of my drink because I need to hydrate, I have to say, hold please, so that you don't get freaked out by the dead air. Hold please. I can't please everybody, and I'm not a cupcake, but I try to, at least. Canons of decency. Because while constitutional violation in this case appears to be one of first impression, due process requires a judgment reconciling the needs of both continuity and of change in a progressive society. As demonstrated by the facts of King's case, today racial discrimination takes the form more subtle than before, but it is not less real or pernicious. Regardless of King's constitutional claims, common principles may provide even greater protections than either the state or the federal constitution require. Common law principles of fairness have supported a wide range of decisions protecting defendants' rights. So even if this court were to determine that the prevalence of racism in this case throughout Proctor's investigation was not a violation of King's constitutional rights, common law principles of fairness demand King's motion to dismiss be allowed. No objective observer could view an investigation in which the lead investigator held such deep-seated racist beliefs as anything approaching fair. Conclusion: for all the foregoing reasons, as well as the reasons stated in King's original motion to dismiss and his first supplemental motion to dismiss, King requests that this court dismiss the charges against him and, in any event, grant an evidentiary hearing on this motion to dismiss. To deny an evidentiary hearing on these facts would further shield Proctor and the Commonwealth from accountability for this egregious misconduct. Wow. This goes all the way back to May 8th of 2026. It has just been unimpounded. We got to unimpound down after the hearing yesterday by Judge Doolin, and this is explosive, in my opinion. XOXO. Myles King by his attorney, Rosemary Scapicchio, and her daughter, Nicole Scapicchio. And I love how Judge Doolin says, Scapicchio. Wow. Let's get to your questions, because I know that you've got so much to say, so much to say, so much to say. Oh, now you can see my posters a little bit better. Okay, see the Dave Matthews Band poster over here where I'm pointing, because I'm mirrored, is the Forest Hills Tennis Stadium poster, and you can see it. And there's actually a street sign that says Gray Street and the end of the world. So it's the corner of Gray Street and the end of the world. And then the one behind me, the foil, is the tour poster, which I love. Look at her. I love her. Isn't she beautiful? So the set design has changed a little bit. Still in my favorite Art Deco style and a little bit pop art-ish. One moment while I thank some more of you and answer some more questions that are in a different location. Whew. Betsy, thank you for your Venmo. I love you and I appreciate you so much. XOXO, I love your face even more. Elaine, thank you for your very generous Venmo, who says, looking extra lovely today. Orange is your color. Oh, thank you, Elaine. I love you so much. Thank you so much. Karen says, please tell me what I need to send to you so I can be unblocked. You have to send me the link to your YouTube channel. Even if you don't have a YouTube channel, even if you think you don't, you do. You have to go to like your homepage and copy the link to your channel. I can't use your username. I appreciate you so much. My email is in the show notes below this video. It's the only one I use, fanbase@mlittlelaw.com. Email me your link, put in the subject line blocked, and I will look into it. Thank you very much, Karen, for your Venmo. Laura says, can you think of any reason Proctor has not been charged by the feds yet, especially since the officer in Missouri was convicted of looking for nudes? Yeah, we found a lot of federal cases where they actually did have them and were sharing them. And there's some that are spending time in federal prison because of it. Stephanie, thank you for your very generous 100. Says this tangled web is going into a deep, dark direction. Thank you for taking us into the abyss. When I first read this earlier today, and I didn't read the whole thing because I started shaking. Like I had a physical reaction to it. That's how much it hurts my soul reading stuff like this. It's revolting. Nobody who ever has these kind of opinions and biases should ever be in charge of your safety and in charge of protecting you. And I think it's a lot more pervasive than people think. And who else is going to be implicated? It's just, it is endless, seemingly. Shannon, thank you. Says, I sent you an email regarding Kevin Foley. Thank you very much. I'll take a look for that. Mr. Goodman is here. Says, I'm really not surprised about Proctor's bias. Thanks for entertaining us on Friday night, date night. It is my pleasure. We love the Goodmans. They're always here. Deborah says, something I always wondered, how did Proctor know about Karen Reed's medical conditions prior to her being arrested? From her phone? They did not seize her phone, right, until her arrest. So I don't know how, unless maybe someone like Jennifer McCabe told him, because remember, Jennifer McCabe also has MS. And Jennifer McCabe, in some of the recent testimony that I've seen of hers, did say in one of the trials, she said, well, when she got called in the really early morning by Karen, she said, I was really groggy because, I have MS and I took my medication for MS. I want to know. And they're going to be entitled to ask, what medication were you on? What medication did you take? What time did you take it? Did you take it at 2 a.m? Is there any chance that your memory could have been affected by the medication that you were taking? When Karen Reed was talking to you on the phone and you're claiming now that she said, I hit him. I have questions, just like many of you do. Excellent question. Thank you, Deborah. Oh, Keon, thank you. So it's just because you have to read all these disgusting messages. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you. Stacy, thank you so much for your very generous 50s. Says, thanks for everything you do. Today's motion was unbelievable. We are outraged and we won't stop until justice is served. Karma knows. Karma knows your address. You got to make the merch. Karma knows your address. Amanda, thank you, says, for all these Proctor streams. Well, I'm not shutting up, and I don't know when this is going to be over. I don't know when, but we're not here until it's over. Deborah, same thing. Send me an email to fanbase@mlittlelaw.com with the link to your channel so that I can investigate it. YouTube has been really crazy. None of the member emojis are working on iPhones. People are getting blocked. Unless you're really a jerk. It's hard to get blocked in my chat unless you're really a jerk, or you come for me, or you block a mod, or you're just a dick. Suzanne, thank you so much. Karma is here with bells on. Thank you for everything you do. We appreciate you so much. I appreciate you, Suzanne, as well. You're always a very kind and generous contributor to the channel. You're so amazing. So amazing. Oh, please. I want to get your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns. Thank you for that thing about Kevin Foley. I don't know if it's the same Kevin Foley, so I can't until this is fully vetted. It says he was a former Canton police officer. I can't, but I don't know if this is the same Kevin Foley that is in these chats, but I will look at that. Thank you for sending that to me. Let's see. I have to, a lot of you sent me stuff on Kevin Foley, but I can't in good faith or conscience read it out loud until I have the chance to vet it on my own, as you know. I appreciate you. Thank you, Tiff, for all the papers that you're sending me and for sending me this motion, which was also sent to me by law girls, not attorneys. Thank you very much. All right. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns. This was a long one. This was a gross one. This is horrific. This is who Michael Proctor is. Do you think his family knows about it? Do you think this is stuff that he would never say in front of his wife or sister? Will this trigger a federal investigation for the racial angle or just add to their ongoing investigation? I don't know. Kiwi Crypt Keeper, I do not know. Thank you for tuning in from New Zealand. But we watched some old footage yesterday from an old hearing. It was a Rule 17 hearing that I spoke about before. Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and Kevin Albert all came in with their attorneys because Karen Reed's team wanted to get access to their communications, and that was quickly shut down. I don't know that the feds ever stopped investigating, but two of the attorneys said, well, I can tell you because I had a conversation with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they told me that I was allowed to say that Brian Albert and Nicole Albert are not a target. And then somebody else said that Brian Higgins is not a target. And they said I could say that. Was the target the whole DA's office? We still don't know. We still don't know. Thanks for tuning in from New Zealand. Happy Women's Veterans Day. Is it such a thing? It's Women's Veterans Day. Thank you, Friedrich Faust. I'm not a veteran, but thank you and to all the women who have served. If that is such a holiday, they're starting to, add some new holidays in there, like, Grandparents' Day. Like that was never a thing. Thanks for being here for 13 months. Bridget says, Turtle Boy deserves recognition for bringing the Karen Read case alive, for getting us to fight for the corruption and for the lawyers to fight for freedom of speech. Free Turtle Boy. I have so many messages from you guys, so many really nice emails. Like the nice things that you guys sent me outweigh the horrific things that are sent to me by about 100-fold. And so many of you have said, I never even watched trials before until I stumbled on the Karen Read trial. And since then, I've watched Karen Read's both trials. I've watched Edric Foss. I've watched Lucy Medina. I've watched Brian Camp. Name every single acquittal that we've seen and every other Edric Foss, every case that we've seen of someone being railroaded by the justice system and people, Penny McGee, every defendant who has been able to be acquitted. And it's an amazing thing. So in a lot of ways, he brought recognition to lots of things, right? And even before that, for a decade, he was uncovering other corruption throughout Massachusetts. So thank you, Bridget. On top says, and God bless the Irish in most recent events. Yes. Thank you. On top, 3-5. Leah Baker says, Lally was originally assigned to prosecute King. Oh, yes. Is he still the lead prosecutor? No. Oh, Leah. First of all, I quoted you yesterday. I don't know if you know, but I pulled up, somebody sent me your tweet and it had some of my old footage from that hearing that I was just talking about, the Rule 17 hearing. So thank you for posting that because you guys make my job easier when you clip things. He was the original prosecutor. He was, let's see. If you go back to the stream that I did where Lally was on the stand, it's a fascinating stream. He talks about when he was taken off the case. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I want to say it was like October. It would have been October 2024-ish because he didn't have access to his file because he wasn't on the case anymore. So he couldn't look up what he did to get Michael Proctor to turn him over the evidence that what hadn't been turned over. And like, he was asked all kinds of questions about what he did and who he sent emails to. And he was just like, I'm not on the case anymore, so I don't have access to the case file. Afro Man, another great trial. So thanks, Leah Baker, for that tweet yesterday and also for your 20. Phil Gallagher, thank you for your super sticker and for tuning in from across the pond. Cindy became a new member. Well, welcome. I think you're going to like it here. Ms. Holmes says, can Jen McCabe be asked, are you on meds now? Oh, 100%. That is something that is always asked at every deposition that I do. Did you take any medication today or fail to take any medication that you should have taken that could affect your ability to testify here today? That is a totally permissible question. Excellent question, Ms. Holmes. Thanks for being here for 19 months. Snoo Apple says, thanks for the Hearth and Homestead lotion recommendation. Did you get it? She says, I'm a florist and I've tried so many lotions. This one actually works. So grateful for you for helping me find it. You're the best. OMG. I'm telling you, it has changed my skin. I've only been using it for like a week or two. It is Hearth and Homestead whipped beef tallow, the vanilla orange flavor. I love it. It's on sale for $30. It's in my Amazon storefront, which is linked below this video. It is made by a family that lives on a farm in Virginia. They have 5 kids. It's all natural. I didn't even know what whipped beef tallow was. You know why? Because Kelly Reed didn't tell me. Because we were talking today. She's like, I've been using it for years. I'm like, girl, how did you not tell me about this secret? Your skin always looks fabulous. And you can use it on your face and anywhere really. I mean, it seems to be like good for all kinds of things. So I'm so glad that you found it because I love to share secrets with you guys. It's on sale for $30. Do you like it? If you got it, tell me if you like it. It's amazing. People say, you can't put it on your face in the morning because sunscreen, whatever. I don't care. I am at the age where, if you're like postmenopausal, your skin gets really freaking dry, especially if you're out in the sun all day. Even in the winter, it's dry. In the winter, it's dry. In the summer, it's dry. I used to have very combination skin, not so much anymore, but this has changed my skin. The vanilla coffee is also good. That flavor is also good. That's also on sale. I like the vanilla orange. I don't know if I can branch out to another flavor, but I'll try. All of you love it. Look at you guys. You guys did it. You said you're in love. Imagine being in love with a cream. I mean, I have used La Mer. I've used everything from La Mer to there's this new number 7 that's from across the pond that everyone says is amazing. I have used everything. This is $30 and literally it changed my skin. Oh, Kelly Reed is here. She says your beef tallow is amazing. I love it. She loves it too. Thank you, Miss Jules from Florida, for thanking me for my hard work. This is a lot of work. It may seem easy. It's not. It's a lot of work, but I also have a passion for this. That's why I don't cover things that just because everyone else is covering it, if I'm not interested in it, I don't want to cover it because I can't find the passion, you know? Like the Corey Richards case, I just couldn't be passionate about it. And people are always like, oh, you're doing it for likes and clicks and likes. If I wanted clicks and likes, I sure as F never would have touched Karen Reed, okay? Ever. Oh, you guys got it all last night. You guys got it all. Yeah. Face, hands, neck, everywhere. You can put it anywhere. It's good for babies. It's good for cuts and scrapes. I don't know. There's like a million reasons why you could use it. You could do the research on your own. Or you're just a dick. I almost choked on my pizza, said Hayden's mom. Yeah, that's it. It's really easy not to get blocked. Just don't be a dick. And so many people like just come in and pay me $2 to like disparage me. Most of them I deleted. One of them got through. And then people are like, don't pay attention to them. I'm like, don't tell me what to do. Music to My Soul says, thanks for spending so much quality time with us. Oh, you guys are like my family. You're like my family. You know what we did not read today is our motivational quote of the day. And this is a quote. Today's Friday, June 10th. Friday, June 12th, 2026. Johann Sebastian Bach said, this is I don't know if you can cook with it. This is a beef tallow that has been whipped into a body cream and it's flavored. So I don't think you can cook with it, but there is beef tallow that you can cook with. I just don't think that this is it. Just, you know, like coconut oil, I guess, you know, similar to that. Lots of different uses. Okay. Here's what Johann Sebastian Bach said. Ceaseless work, analysis, reflection, writing much, endless self-correction. That is my secret. Oh, you have to get food grade beef tallow. Thank you. That is a great quote for what we have learned today. Ready? Johann Sebastian Bach, one of the greatest composers of all time, said we should play the tiniest violin. Hold on. You got to hear the tiniest violin. This is fantastic, but I have to change my settings on my mic, or otherwise it won't play for you. Here you go. Here's the tiniest violin for Proctor. Bach said, ceaseless work, analysis, reflection, writing much, endless self-correction. That is my secret. Is that the secret for genius? There it is. And we are down to our final empowerment card of this deck. You couldn't hear the tiny violin? Oh, I don't know why it won't play. Maybe I have to move it away from the microphone. Hang on. The final empowerment card of this deck. Too glam to give a damn. Too glam to give a damn. There it is. So many of you call yourselves glamma instead of grandma. Let me move it away over here and see if you can hear it now. Could you hear it? Because you know the BS button also makes noise. You still can't hear it? It's so weird. I don't know why the mic won't pick it up. I don't know. I don't know, yo. Anything else? Thank you, James Lynch, for gifting membership. I appreciate you so very much. I mean, how much more can we take in one day? We need to hype the video because they're going to they might ban it. I mean, not ban it. What they do is they flag it as unfriendly to advertisers. And, you know, it's not so much about making less on ad revenue, but oops, my stress ball just fell. They shadow ban the video, which means it doesn't come up in people's feeds and they don't hear about it. And so then they don't watch it. And then, you know, if you guys can share it out on Facebook or whatever. I know the Mr. T keychain. Yeah, the Mr. T keychain, but you probably won't be able to hear that either. I don't know. I maybe have to change my mic settings. I don't know. All right. So I'm sure you will see me again this weekend. I just don't know when, and I don't know what the topic is going to be. So what you should do is make sure that you are subscribed. YouTube is also crazy about unsubscribing people without your consent. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure your notifications are set to all. Make sure you like the stream, hype the stream, comment on the stream, all of that. YouTube filters out external sounds now. Great. Thanks, Jim Cox. Thanks for telling me. I mean, are they going to fix the problem with the member emojis that nobody from an iPhone can access? And they're going to give everybody a discount for paying their membership fee? Ms. Jules says, ugh, F then, least cheer the best. You are mine. Oh, thank you, sweet pea. Thank you for your 10. We didn't finish the amended, it's not the amended motion, it's the amended complaint. Okay, that will be the next thing that we can do. And then there's some more filings that just came into my inbox on, I guess, Karen Reed and other things. I just have to cobble them together to make a show out of it. Because even though a lot of times I seem very, very disorganized, what happens when I'm not here to get this ready is a lot of work. All right. I love you guys so much. I will see you likely tomorrow or Sunday. Let's see what time. Tomorrow's the Knicks game. That's a night game. And Sunday is hockey. That's also a night game. Yeah, you know what I did? I actually just laid these posters out overnight. I put books on them to unroll them because they give you nice tubes at the concert, those nice cardboard poster tubes. And then I laid them out overnight with heavy books on all corners so they would flatten. And then I put them over the other posters that were already in those frames. So really, it was not a lot of work. But I do love you guys. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. Thank you, moderators. This was probably really hard tonight playing Whack-A-Troll for, I don't know, almost 4 hours. But I love each and every one of you for all of the time that you spend with me, because I wouldn't want it any other way. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. Happy birthday to Laura's son, Lupo, 2022. Well, he's double twos, double deuces. Love you guys. I'll see you real soon. Peace. Yeah, the one behind me is really cool, right? Love you guys. Bye. Oh, wait, sorry. What I forgot. There's a couple of super chats I missed. Stand with Mel says, knowing what we know now, the words of Proctor's attorneys, Proctor has been through enough, upsets me even more than they did when he uttered them. I'm sorry. I don't know how I didn't see that earlier. StreamYard's also doing this weird thing now where once you read it, it's like not as bright anymore. And so it's hard for me to tell what's been read and what hasn't. So I think that's the only one that I missed. If there's anybody else who I missed, I extend my deepest apologies. Okay. Now we can go. I love you guys. Peace.